lines going across the screen?
I do see squiggly
Okay,
lines.
perfect. Excellent.
Um,
Do you have enough hard drive space?
I checked just before you asked me. Yes.
Okay, good.
All good.
All right, Noah, bring the fire.
Well, no, not all good. Give me a second. I have to resize Zoom because it reset when we changed cameras.
You know, when we renegotiate contracts next year, I'm going to tell our renegotiation agents that I'm not putting up with this waiting stuff anymore.
Aren't we the
Ted's gonna have to get his game in
I'm
gear.
confused.
This surprises me.
What's that? Did I have a renegotiation agent? It's Ted.
That you have an agent at all.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
Ted.
yeah, Ted.
It's Ted, therefore me.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
I have to
think
cut
you're gonna get a good
my
deal
own
out
pay.
of this.
Yeah, I had to cut
Well,
my
Ted's
own
an
pay.
idiot, but he's still my agent, you know?
Yeah, but I don't think you're gonna get a good deal out of this, Ryan.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut it until it's like 90-10 for Ted.
90-10.
That sounds like a good plan.
Could you imagine giving Ted money? That's ridiculous.
I know, right? Silly. Right.
Why does Noah look like he's in like some kind of like smoker's room?
Well, no, he's in
Because
heaven in his basement.
Right, exactly. Because the thing is, here's why. I have no electrical in this room yet. So it's all run with extension cords.
Did you
and
take
some
down the
micro-
stuff you already had, or is this a new room?
No. This is we're finally getting to we're finally starting to remodel parts of our basement. So I'm no longer in the laundry or in the equipment room with the furnace and the air conditioner. Now the upsides to that are that the furnace and the air conditioner no longer make noise when we're recording. It's completely quiet in here. The downsides are there's no electricity in here. And it's an electronic podcast, so everything's run with extension cords. Anyway, I
Aren't
ordered
you also freezing in there?
some video. Yeah, that's a different story. I ordered some video lights that are going to go up in front of me, but they're not here yet.
You would look really cute with a shawl on while we record. You know,
What now? A shawl?
A shawl?
Yeah.
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 Come on, man. I mean, we don't want you to freeze to death while you're getting the podcast, and we want you to look funny while you're doing it.
How else are we gonna make fun of you?
Hey, Noah, since we're having a weird lighting problem, can you just take a photo of yourself doing a pose with a regular camera?
Here's the thing, is it worse than most weeks? Because nothing has changed from last week. Okay,
it's kind of bad, dude. It's not unusable. It's just the photo would be very bad.
Yeah, well,
Noah has an angel hovering above him just out of frame.
I mean, he's about to either be pulled into heaven or heaven's about to shoot down into him.
To shoot down into him.
He'll be possessed.
Yeah.
Or now he's in hell with the red light.
Actually, there we go.
Yeah, it looks way better now.
That's much better.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Noah, you look great. That's much better.
Thank you, Ted, for fixing it.
Where are these? Yeah, thanks, Ted. Don't hang them there next time. Which direction they point in, which walls they bounce off of affect greatly what it looks like.
Yes, that's how that works.
All right, let's get started. Come on.
All right, switch to that. Wait a second. Boom.
Are we going to get Ted's cam back or no?
No, we can't have.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's fine.
Yeah. Considering it.
We don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, it's okay. I just wanted to know. So, okay.
Cool. We'll have it after the interview.
Sounds good.
Just go in 2 seconds.
Coming up on this week's episode of Destination Linux, we have an interview with the developer of Super Productivity, the app we've talked about for the past few weeks. The DL Triforce fills any new occurrences.
No, we're not gonna do it. We're gonna just skip ahead to the interview.
Oh, okay. So we just start with the interview.
Yeah, we'll add that in afterwards so I can do the FX.
Sure.
And go 2 seconds.
We'd like to welcome Johannes to the show. Johannes is the developer of the open source app Super Productivity. Now, after we had Michael gushing about this tool, Ryan and I started using it. We all fell in love with it. Eventually, the entire Destination Linux community fell in love with this app. And so we invited the developer on to come talk with us about what inspired this tool and what the future roadmap of this really great tool looks like. So, Johannes, welcome into the program.
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much for having me.
So for listeners who may not be aware of Super Productivity, can you tell me how the project got started and what it is?
Yeah, I think I first started to work on the app when I was working on a project where I was required to do some time tracking, and was not a big task, like maybe 15 minutes every day, but trying to be a good programmer, I got annoyed by it very quickly, and I thought, yeah, maybe there's some way to automate this, or to make this at least a little bit more enjoyable. And so I sat down after work and tried to develop a tool to make this a little bit easier. And and time after time, like there were more ideas and other things like which were a little bit annoying, and so this grew and grew, and now we are where we are.
So this started basically as a tool to solve a problem that you were dealing with, then something that a tool that you needed for yourself.
Yeah. So it's
Exactly.
so your motivation is basically like just trying to scratch an itch that you had, and to be able to provide the solution that you wanted anyway. And that's, to me, that's what, when I found this, it was like you had thought of everything I wanted and things that I didn't. So that was fantastic. So you scratched my itch as well. So I appreciate that.
That's cool. Yeah, it always amazes me that it's useful to other people as well, because, as you say, like it's very tailored around my own needs. I try a lot of stuff, and sometimes I remember last week we were making fun about the stool timer, and
Stool timer.
Yeah, that's but that's what it's about. Like to try a little bit of stuff, and maybe sometimes you go a little bit overboard, like overdoing it.
I thought it was fantastic when I found that. Like it was funny, but it was also at the same time, I was like, I do want that. Yes.
Yeah, why not? Why not? And yeah, and that's when you're working in computer science, like usually you working with all those agile methods, but for your personal workflows, at least me, for myself, like I wasn't experimenting very much, but like since I got the tool, like I'm trying out different things, and it really gives me more joy to work in general. Like even if the task sucks, at least I can view it as a testing ground for my tool. So that works out pretty well for me.
So this is a productivity app for those who may not have heard of it before. How did you go about deciding, because there are a million methods to productivity out there? Obviously, I have used, I don't know, half a dozen tools that were supposed to help productivity. I use them for, I don't know, an hour. It doesn't fit some need and I move on to something else. But this tool had me captivated, which is rare because I'm a shoot from the hip kind of person. I don't like organizing and scheduling. I just
that is an
do
understatement.
Yeah, so that's my personality. So typically these apps do not appeal to me, but this one has. It has stuck with me for the last few weeks that I've been using it. Was there any science behind it, or are you just trying to solve a problem for yourself in this? Meaning, were you looking at any of the models of productivity or anything when you're building this?
Yeah, I think I read some articles about it. Like there's nothing particular would come to my mind. This one source of let's say inspiration, like for some of the features, but also like recently, which was really interesting. There was a guy like who's a doctor in experimental psychology and computer science, and he's a really nice person. And for some reason, he stumbled upon the tool, and he gave me some really good insight. And also that there are some good ideas in there, and
Wow.
So I take
that's
from
awesome.
different sources, and I just try stuff out, and basically like what I think really works for the development process is I use it myself, and so I very quickly see, like, at least I don't know about other people, but I know for myself, oh, this works well, or this was a stupid idea. So yeah.
And just a quick follow up to that, have you built any other applications like this before?
Not like this. Like actually, the thing which gives me really joy about the project is that I use it myself. Like usually for my day-to-day jobs, I don't know. I do a stupid shopping website, or I don't know some other
They're
tool
not
which
stupid. We love
actually,
them. I don't know what they are.
Yeah, we love shopping websites. DL192.com.
I never used. Yeah. Yeah. I never used a single product I've built so far in my career. I never use it myself, and so this is a nice for a change to have something which is useful to myself. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Let me ask you this. Why open source? You have the opportunity to make a really great productivity app, and this makes the proprietary competition or the service-based competition look like Fisher-Price child's play. I mean, there are so many features that are so well done in this app. Why not license it with a proprietary license, form a company around it, sell a subscription only service for $8 a month or whatever? And why release it to the community like this?
Yeah, first of all, I'm a really bad salesperson, and I don't get any joy out of it whatsoever. So I never really asked myself, or it was never really in question that it would be open source. And also, I'm a very, very big fan of in general the idea of open source. And I think, in particular in computer science or in software development, it's so stupid that people are developing the same thing on and again, and that they're keeping all this knowledge to themselves. So for me was a really great opportunity, and also like which I wasn't thinking about before, but like now after 3 years of this app existing, I've had so many amazing experiences with other people who supported some input. I was talking about this was Eric's experimental psychology guy, but recently I've been talking to a very talented designer who gave some amazing feedback. There was a young programmer from Egypt which developed the GitLab integration, and it's so nice like with just other people working on this, and nobody gets any money for it, but everybody I think enjoys it in a way, and people come and leave again, but it's just a nice way to work on something just for the enjoyment.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, when I first found it, I've been looking for productivity apps for a very long time, and I found that one and also like a few others at the same time. So I started playing with them, and I started playing with the order I found them, and then I happened to find Super Productivity last. And it was kind of funny because it was like, man, I wish I would just completely skipped all the other ones if I'd have found that if I just tried this one first. But it was funny because after I got these, like Ryan said that he tried it for an hour and then just kind of, it didn't work. So that happened to me like every single time, although some of them were like 10 minutes. But when I got to yours, and I was like, okay, super productivity, that is a strong claim. Let's see what happens. Like, okay, that is an accurate description. Fantastic. And it was like almost instantly I was like a huge fan of it. And it's one of the things that was open source was one of the main things that I decided to use it for. So that was like the big play for my interest in trying it out. So the idea that you were doing as open source is just fantastic. And I'm curious, what is the advantages you see for open source? And also, are there any struggles in doing an open source project like this?
The advantages, as we've been talking about before, is like that you're surprised about, that people get on board randomly with really great ideas. I think this is not possible in the same way with closed source development.
Absolutely.
Because it doesn't invite this kind of participation.
Right.
And about the disadvantages, I thought about it before the interview, but I really can't say there is one. I can still, if I decide to, I can still ask money for it. Of course, like people can compile it themselves, and this will always be like that. But I could put it, let's say, in the Apple Store or something like that. It's always an option.
Yeah.
So there's really no disadvantage.
That's fantastic, because that's what I wanted to hear, and it was just so that's the best the best answer for that.
So one of the features that I have heard people wanting is the ability to connect this tool or sync to databases that are more FOSS-based, like outside of Google Drive and Dropbox.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to add other sync sources there?
Yeah, there are. Yeah, I've been closely listening to what you have been saying last week, and it should be possible already. Like to just the configuration files are saved on the file system inside the config folder, but I want to make it more accessible.
Love that.
Yeah, that's top on the list, I would say. So.
I love it.
So
no, thank you so much.
I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So essentially, the super productivity, is it like an XML file that just lives on the disk somewhere? So you, in theory, could just, like let's say you use C file, you could just drag the folder that the super productivity stuff is into C file, and then sync it to each machine. That in theory should work.
I'm not 100% sure if this will work, but I know it's an Electron-based applications. I hope that won't scare away too many users, but that's
Not
how
us.
it is. And so I'm not 100% sure if you can sync the complete folder, but definitely there's a database file. It's level DB. I think that's what Chrome uses in the background for saving index DB. And if you think this, I don't see a reason why this shouldn't work.
Gotcha. Okay, very cool.
I might be wrong, but I would be surprised if this won't work. Yeah.
Noah, you're next.
I am.
Yep.
Oh, right, because that was your call. Oh, sorry. Johannes, what are some of the next features that you're working on for the tool? What can people look forward to? What's coming next?
Yeah, currently I'm working on several bug fixes. Also, I want to increase stability of the application. And connected to that is like making things like WebDFV syncing and using other methods easier, which I think I will switch to a flat file storage, because like this is the easiest way. Also, if you like, for example, use it on a pen drive or something like this, and this is a big change which will be coming. And there's some other minor design improvements recently. I'm not sure if it was a good idea, but I added some sounds to the application, and you can turn them off if you don't like them. It's like I had the idea that if you to do a similar thing which Super Mario does, which is playing a higher pitch every time you collect a coin, and I thought, oh, maybe that's nice.
That's awesome.
That's pretty
like
brilliant.
it. Motivation, yes.
I love that.
This is so great.
I don't know if it works well, but
it does.
Just give it a shot. And
I also really like the fact that the sound effects you have for the task of your break is almost up. So like, it's like tings you, like, and it pops up and it brings attention. It's like that's helped me so many times. That ding, just like the fact that there's sound effects in this thing is actually pretty good, and the gamification sounds amazing. So
yeah. So maybe if people enjoy that, I will improve on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And also one thing which I really want to improve is the notes feature. It really doesn't work well at the moment, I think. And this I want to make better at some point.
Like, hopefully you don't mind a feature request in the show. But I do have.
No, it's great.
Really great. One of the things that I found that would be like, other than the syncing, of course, but there's this one thing that with the projects, once the project is done, it doesn't seem like there's a way to archive the project into like the work log. If that was possible, that would be like just fantastic. Like that would change the workflow even more. Like,
I think there's already an open issue for that. I will keep it in mind.
Awesome.
Yeah, tell them $12.99. Just tell them $12.99 for that feature.
Happily.
But I can't stress it enough. Like for me, it's as the app doesn't collect any data, it's super helpful to hear like how people use the app, what is helpful to them, because like I can't know because I don't have any access to their data. But so it's always, even if I don't maybe like the idea so much, it's really good to hear. That's also how people work with the application. So everybody who has something which they think, this could be better, please open up an issue on GitHub or write me an email. That's always appreciated and very helpful.
I think that's a really important thing to kind of highlight here, is that because you're not collecting data. I mean, what's the excuse every company uses in their terms and conditions of why they're collecting your data and then therefore selling it to marketing companies? Right. The better our services. But when we're dealing with open source, what you're talking about here is because you don't have that, even if you were just using it for good purposes, you need people to take the time to reach out and say, hey, I've had this issue, or I've had this experience, or I'd like to see this feature. And that doesn't mean you can incorporate them all, but that is your only real feedback model other than the people you talk to for getting this information. And so I just think it's a critical point for the open source community listening to this to make sure when you have those things come up, to number one, make sure it's not mean when you're writing it, like, this is the dumbest application ever because it doesn't have X, but to give good quality feedback to say, here are the things that I think would improve the application, or here are some issues that I ran into, because that's the only way the developers are going to know there's a problem.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. And there's also like the way that you're contributing to this project. What would you say is the best way to do it, other than doing issues and suggestions or feature requests, that sort of stuff? Is there anything else that you'd like to, ask people to contribute with?
Oh, there are tons of opportunities. Like maybe even ways I haven't thought about it. Like the most basic thing you can do is like say like how you work with the app and what you don't like. This is pretty helpful already. What I really would also appreciate is people like contributing code, which is there's a lot to do, and so that would be great. But also like feedback on the design, because like I'm personally, I'm not a designer. I just think it looks pretty, but if you have somebody who does it every day and who has to think about these things, they just see things.
I'm a designer, and there are certain pieces. I would like to point out that as a designer, it's a very nice looking app. Like, that's one of the things that made me want to use it. And then when I found that the dark mode was built into it so easily, like, okay, this is good. So then I can give you some suggestions about the improvements, and I'll send those, and then like issues and stuff like that. But like overall, the base level foundation you have for the design is already very, very good.
Although I do think it's funny that the first thing we mention when we say it's a great looking app, because it is it has dark mode.
Yes.
I mean, that is such an important thing.
It is.
Right?
It's a deal breaker for me.
Yeah. It's very good, and the light version is also very nice looking. It's just like some people have a different like. There's also some kind of like a headache creation when you have if you have really bright windows all the time. So having a dark mode is very important, especially for a productivity app and a task app like that. So when I saw that, it was like, okay, fantastic. When I saw your video about like demoing what like different features it had, I was like, okay, please have a dark mode. So installed it, switched it, and like, okay, fantastic. Now let's use this. And so they're like that's why it's important for a lot of people. But I think that there's the design of it overall is fantastic. And I also love like the kind of playfulness of it. When you decide to end the day, it's that click finish day, and it says, like, do you want to go back and continue working, or do you want to just close it out? And when you close it out, it says I shut down. And that's just fun. It's like aye captain, and you just kind of it goes away, and then like I don't know if it's a unicorn or a horse that shows up. It's like, that's just fun. Like, it's just a fun effect, and I like that.
It makes you it gives you little things to look forward to as you're going through your workday. Because when you check off that task and you can look down and see all of the stuff that you've done. And the other thing is too, the ability to add to my today list, right? When we organize tasks, we always organize tasks based on entity or project or whatever. But at the end of the day, we're only one person. We can only do so many things. So even though there's all of these different entities, all these different categories, only a few tasks from each one are going to make it into any one given day. And the ability to just click on them and go, I'm working on that, doing that, doing that, doing that. Okay, now I know what I'm going to do. It's just, I don't have enough good things to say about your app. You've knocked it out of the park. Have you thought about web hosting it at all, or making it able for people to web host it, or maybe as like a plugin for something like Nextcloud, so people could run super productivity inside of their Nextcloud instance?
Yeah, that's an interesting suggestion. I have thought about it before. What is possible already is like you could put it on your own web server, because how it works at the moment is that all data is saved on the client. So if you go on there's also a web version of it already.
Oh, there is.
There,
Oh, okay.
There is already a web version, but what's not included is, or what's not working at the moment, it's probably also a good idea to add in the future, is that you are saving data to the web server. And so this is a part maybe you have to think about that. It really would be cool to have that as well. But at the moment, you can host it yourself, and but it works like all data is in the user's browser. So
that honestly,
or something.
Yeah, that changes it right there for me. I didn't realize that it could be self-hosted. I thought it was just I thought it was a local client thing.
Yeah, I think it's very cool that you can have like both. I mean, I do also like the local data anyway, because it does, the fact that, like, one of the things about the open source and the thing that it was also saying, like, no data collection and that sort of stuff was like, so I get everything I want, and also the privacy aspect is important. So like the having the ability to do that, and also having it where maybe it could do the multi-user in the future if you do a web hosted version would be amazing. No pressure on that one. That's just
But see, this is why I think the monetization eventually of the project will be important for additional features, because the reason why I mention it is because I see so many projects that start out with this fire behind them, and this project is there, right? It's just so good. But then as the years, maybe sometimes months, but years go on, you're working a full-time job, and then you've got all these people piling on the requests. I think a way to become patron or support the project financially and other things is something that, is good to be thinking about and considering how you get there, so that the motivation remains to continue to build out all of the features here. Because like you said, I don't want 60 new open source apps based off super productivity to release. I want one really good app in the open source community that we use and selection's great and everything, but I want that one kind of mainstream application like we have with, say, Blender or OBS, where that's the core product. There may be others, but that's the main one. So yeah, I hope you consider looking at ways, because I think people would love to financially back a project like this, because it helps you through your day. It actually helps you get work done. It helps you be organized. It helps me save money by me not wasting my time, getting lost in YouTube algorithm versus working on something that I need to get done for the day. So, it's an important application.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, just a quick note, the commercial aspects of it would be fantastic, because when the biggest thing about this is I've tried, I don't know how many to-do apps and task management systems and productivity systems and dozens and dozens of stuff. None of them had made me go, wow, I have to use this. And Super Productivity was the first one where it actually made me excited to use it every day. So I set up to auto start.
Told you he's gushing.
Well, yeah, okay, that's true. You're right. But okay, sorry. But at the same time, it is worth that, and I do appreciate you doing it, because it was the first time I actually was excited to use a to-do app, and I didn't even think that would be possible. And I love all the quirky aspects of it too, that makes it more fun to do, and all those different pieces. So I would gladly be a patron of that. So if you do consider that, absolutely let me know.
Yes, thank you very much for the advice. Yeah, it's probably a very good point about the motivation that you're just now you get some money, and now you also owe the people a little bit. Maybe that's a good
There's definitely that feeling. I remember when somebody my crap code donated to my crap code, and I was like, wow, I got to go fix my crap code out there, because they actually give me some money for this thing. So yeah, there's definitely something behind that for sure.
Johannes, thank you so much for taking the time for joining us and making such an awesome tool for productivity. I mean, I think I speak on everybody in the open source community when I say thank you very much. It is a fantastic tool. You've done an outstanding job.
Yes, thank you very, very much for having me here. It was really a pleasure.
Yeah. We look forward to seeing what you build next.
Yeah, absolutely. And also continue to use Super Productivity.
Well, yeah, naturally. But I'm thinking I've got all kinds of apps for him to build now.
Yeah.
No, I'm teasing.
No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. No. All right, good. We've got that done. Thank you so much for coming on the show. How did you hear about us calling you out on the show, by the way? Out of
I
curiosity.
think it was the issue that Michael
Yeah.
commented on an issue. I think that was
Yeah.
it. And then
Nice.
I forgot what the issue was, but I was like, I have to be involved in this, and then so I
I
just.
think it was about syncing, no? The WebDFV syncing.
Oh yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, but the first thing it was about Nextcloud, I think. Yeah, Nextcloud syncing or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, well, just don't give Michael too many ins. If you start doing anything he asks, then it will just be never ending. So
Yeah.
feel free just to tell him no.
a lot of projects have learned if you listen to me once, you will hear me at least 50 times.
What about this? What about that? What about this? Just set up a paywall for just Michael.
That's fine.
Every request is $5. Yeah, we'll probably all pay it anyways. All right. Well, you are welcome to stay on and hang out, but I think you said you had some other stuff to do. But thank you again so much, and we hope to have you back on. And if you have any features or any big things you want to announce in the future, just ping us, and we can have you on the show and get the word out about it.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Thanks. All right. I guess we have to bring Ted back. Jeez.
We don't have to, but if you want.
All right, Ted, get in here.
Come on, Ted. Put your camera. Don't put it on your face, though, Ted. Nobody wants to see that.
That's not how you're supposed to wear that thing. Now we're back to being off time again. Thanks a lot, Ted. I thought the interview went well.
Keep the bag on your head, Ted.
The bag.
Nobody wants
He
to
tried to
see
take the paper bag off his head.
Nobody wants to see that.
Stupid.
Right?
Nobody wants to see his face. All right. We went about 23 minutes on the interview. So
that seems about right.
Yeah, I think we're about right on.
Yeah.
And go 2 seconds.
Yep. Go ahead. Well, actually, yeah, go ahead. Go 2 seconds.
Coming up on this week's episode of Destination Linux, we interview the developer of Super Productivity, the Coming up on this week's episode of Destination Linux, we interview the developer of Super Productivity, the app that we've been talking about here on Destination Linux the past few weeks. The DL Triforce fills in new occurrences that have happened since the ARM acquisition. Yeah, that's right. You probably heard about it, but you haven't heard what's happened since. We cover XFCE's upcoming 4.16 release. We'll get you prepped for a spooky Halloween in our gaming section. And of course, our popular tip, tricks, and software picks, all that and so much more coming up right now on Destination Linux.
Music cueing the show that has Ted. Nobody cares about Ted.
Nobody cares, Ted. But cares. That's right.
Ted, don't say that into the microphone. Nobody cares you're here. Idiot.
Wow.
I'm a real boy now. Yay. All right. It's my son's birthday today.
Happy birthday to your son.
Yeah. Welcome to episode 192. You're tuned to the #1 video-centric Linux podcast on the planet. Destination Linux is your source for great discussions on Linux and all things open source. My name's Noah. I'm delighted to be with you today. With me is the VOT International's worst nightmare, Ryan and Michael. Let's find out what they're up to. Ryan, what are you up to and what does that intro mean?
Yeah.
Well, that intro is from the show The Boys, which is an Amazon Prime show that's so awesome. So if you don't get that reference, then you need to go back and watch that show. But it is made for adults. Don't let your kids watch it with you. It's quite violent. So, but check that out. In any case, what I've been up to this week, well, I have a new video coming out on the Mini Titan. It's just waiting on Michael to make a thumbnail. I gave him at least an hour notice before the show.
Before this
the video
show,
was
right.
done to do that. So it's waiting on the
Plenty
thumbnail.
of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Blacker.
He acts like Ted a lot, you know. He just doesn't get stuff done.
It's not that I'm prepping for the show or anything.
No, it's not important. The point is, as soon as Michael's done with that thumbnail, we're going to have benchmarks on this machine. Also talk about some issues that I came across with the machine during the benchmarking test in the video that I had to overcome, which will be really interesting. And overall, just falling in love with this mini ITX build. But I also wanted to give a shout out to the project, the QA platform that we're working on with the Destination Linux community. Just the sheer amount of volunteers and people getting involved in this project expands week over week. And the talent here, ranging from people who've never worked on an open source project before to people, this is their full-time career in big, massive companies. They have tons of experience in this arena, coming together to build this QA platform to hopefully benefit Linux overall and make hardware more compatible with Linux has been just, it's been jaw-dropping. It's been amazing. And I'm just so proud of our community and cannot thank them enough for coming together and rallying around this issue, which they're probably just sick of me going on rants about. So thank you for fixing it, because I won't have anything to rant about.
Well, thank you for ranting about it and bringing it to our attention. Michael, what usefulness have you been to the community this week?
Well,
Can you top that story?
I helped.
Michael.
I helped with that too, so it's not just him.
Well, actually, not only that, and you also were submitting issues to Super Productivity, right?
That's true, exactly, and I was helping.
So we'll get to that later.
And I did bring it to your attention in the first place, so you're welcome. But anyway, so there's what I did this week was actually a really interesting. It's kind of like a form of torturing yourself, and that is cable management. And so I did. So I've been doing
zip ties. You use zip ties?
I did. Yeah. I did not use zip ties. I got these like special like adhesive ties that are like zip ties, but they're like easier to hook and disconnect and everything.
Velcro,
zip ties were too expensive.
So no, it's the you'll see. I'm making a video.
He pulled threads out of his shirt.
CVS.
He pulled threads from his shirt and then he tied those.
I'm making a video to demonstrate what I did, because I think it is a unique style of doing cable management, because I have a sit stand desk. And those are notoriously difficult to do cable management with, especially.
That's what he uses the stool for that never moves.
Well, the stool, so but I'm starting to understand what he's saying. So you have to have enough slag in the cables that the desk can go up and down, but it basically has to be like one umbilical, except for the things that are on the desk. I do want to see this. When does this video come out?
Sometime this week. I haven't finished working on it because I need to make Ryan's thumbnail before, of course, because that's the priorities. But I'm making it'll be coming out soon, and I am so excited because like the way it was before, which I did take a picture of, is it's just so much better. It's fantastic. I came up with a new mechanism of actually I'll explain. I'm not going to explain it here. It's in the video, but instead of having like a cable like tray underneath it or whatever, I created a cable hammock. And I think that is just something people are going to be interested in what that means.
Yeah, it's patent pending. No.
Yeah,
I think IKEA ships cable hammocks with some of their desks.
Well, they have the Signum, which is not a
little
hammock.
net thing, and there's like two little poles.
You got Noah's attention immediately when you said cable management, because those who haven't picked up and been watching the show for a long time, you actually have an OCD about cables hanging around. So
I have an OCD about cables hanging, and I have an OCD about cables that aren't labeled. Like all of the things that plug into the power distribution unit should have a little label on them that tell me what's that, so that in the middle of the night when I'm there at 2 a.m. and come in, they're like, the blah 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 doesn't work. I can go back and just find blah 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 and unplug and not have to go, what's this one go to? No, that goes to switch. No, that one that's someone's iPhone. That one goes,
Well, the funny thing is about it is I'm glad I mentioned it to you on the show, because now I need to put labels on my cords.
Right. And you don't even have to admit that you didn't have that.
Exactly.
Well, now you just delayed the video a week from releasing, because he's going to go label the cables now.
I'll just put them in like post-production. The labels just be hovering in visuals.
There you go. That'll work. Yeah.
that'll speed it up.
So Noah, what have you been up to this week?
So I think it was Thursday, Friday night. I get a message from somebody and they send me a screen cap and they're like, hey, I can't message this particular user on matrix.org. I thought, that's weird. So I try and message that user on matrix.org, and I too can't message that user. I thought that's kind of weird, but it's software's 1 year out of beta. I mean, we'll see what happens. So by Saturday, things are definitely, something is not right. Like the rooms are way quieter. Can't quite figure out what's going on. Start looking into it, and we find out that we are no longer federating. And so the further we dig, the further we're starting to find like how this stuff goes together. Okay, now we find the problem and we fix it. And so not the end of the world, right? And federation comes back. But here's the question. Now we've been off the federation at this point for over 24 hours. Mind you, I've also not slept for 24 hours because I've been up trying to fix this. So 3:00 in the afternoon, I think on Saturday, we finally find the problem. And it was actually with one of our other servers. And so had nothing to do with Matrix, but it had screwed up our DNS stuff. So we go to fix, we go to get that fixed. And before he put the change into place, I thought, now what's going to happen? Because the way that Matrix works is there is a each server, each home server, where it has its users, but those home servers each host a copy of any room that any of its users exist in. So if anybody from matrix.org, for example, existed in the Geek Lab or Noah's booth, then Noah's booth and the Geek Lab, those rooms have copies on the matrix.org server, as well as anybody else that chooses to host their own Synapse. Well, when we brought our Synapse back onto the Federation, all of those messages that the Federation had been having, so let's say, for example, Destination Linux spun up their own server, and let's say matrix.org and Destination Linux were still fine. They were still federating. No, everybody in those two servers would have been able to continue to talk in Noah's booth and Geek Lab, even though the address for that room exists on linuxdelta.com. When Linux Delta came back to the Federation, those two rooms said, here's what you missed, and just a big ball of web packet came, and I watched for probably 45 minutes as messages not only synced back down, but went back in order. And I'm like, man, this is so cool. Like, if you're a government and you're like, now we've got them offline. Oops, one person in the middle of China or in the middle of the Sahara Desert had their own little Synapse server, and it copied the room. So now the entire chat log and all of the users that are on the Federation and anybody else that ever spins up a Synapse instance and connects back to that room is going to sync all of those messages and all of the user content and everything that exists. It is such a remarkable system that Amazing. It is shocking to me this has not taken off in a big way. So we're continuing to explore. I don't know that I at Altispeed Technologies have the resources to do a project like this justice, but what we're evaluating is the possibility of trying to make a more user approachable way to get onto Matrix. That is to say, can we have a site that you can just go to and without creating an account, without signing up for anything, without managing encryption keys, just can you go onto a site and click into a thing and exist into a chat? And could we also have the ability to have a stream window right next to that, so whatever the content is that independent content creator is pushing out to that site also has an embedded chat? And now we solve the issue of, well, if you host your stream on Twitch, then all of those chat participants are there, and if it's on YouTube, you've got a community over there, and if it's all of those things come together because they all exist in one place. And I've re-fallen in love with Matrix all over again, and it's because something in Matrix broke, and I got to see what happens when you can literally torture this stuff and you can't break it. Like, it will find a way to recover.
I like how.
So in your mind, when people are saying, what's the best platform here, you think this is a better platform than Discord and other platforms outside of the privacy aspect now because of things like the Federation? Or is that what you're trying to solve, is to say the piece we're missing is that easy sign up process? Once we have that, we win, type of thing.
Yeah, as a platform, the Matrix, the protocol is flawless. It's flawless. The way that it's designed to work is impeccable, but the implementation of it is fine for me because I understand what's happening. So I'll give you an example, right? I open Element and I see the little wheel of spin, and I'm thinking to myself, I exist in, I don't know, 400 or 500 different chats. Some of those chats have 10, 15,000 people in it. And every one of those messages, which is its own little HTTP packet thing, right? Its own little thing, package. All of those are syncing down to my little phone. Isn't that cool? Like, I came back online and I'm getting like updates from what I missed in the world. Like, every message, I get a copy of it. But my wife opens up her phone. She's like, why does this thing take so long to load? I open Telegram, it's instantaneously there. This thing doesn't, So little things like, and they're easy to fix, is because Telegram doesn't download every single thing instantaneously. It's all being hosted on the server, and your phone is just displaying it. So it's the way that it's implemented is a little bit different. Now, the roadmap for Synapse and Matrix includes the Synapse server running right on the phone. So eventually this is not going to be an issue. The server will run in the background on the phone and continue to pull messages and keep that up to date. So when you open the front end app, it'll just instantly display. Just haven't gotten there yet. And the other thing is the management of encryption keys. Most people don't want to do that. I want to do it. I like the fact that, and I got into a spirited debate with Martin Wimpers about this. I like the fact that it exposes the ability to export the end-to-end keys. I like that they're stored on the device. I like that there's an authentication process that has to occur, that you can easily copy the encryption or allow a different device to sync those encryption keys, or you can choose not to sync them yourself. I want all of those options there. I just wish by default, I don't even know if I'd go as far as to say by default it didn't have encryption, but I wish there was some instance of Matrix that didn't have encryption on by default so that we could compare it in an apples to apples scenario to WhatsApp and Telegram and all these other things that have encryption, but the keys are all stored on the server, so it doesn't really count.
Right. No, I think that's awesome. And just to remind people, if you want to check it out, you can check out Noah's booth out there. You have the Geek Lab, and you also have Destination Linux out there to check out on the Matrix server. So
we'll have links in the show notes as well. And also, I just wanted to make just one clear note that this is the true sign of a sysadmin or a technology enthusiast of saying this thing just completely crashed on me, and I'm going,
that's right.
Oh, how do we fix it now? This is fun. Like the reaction of like, this is you're not mad.
It wasn't fun fixing it. It was fun because of the result.
It was fun. It was fun because the reason that it went down was an understandable thing. We made a change to something, and we were not aware of the implications to Matrix, but Matrix didn't screw. The thing that I don't have a lot of tolerance for is when something is poorly coded or runs out of memory, or there's some bug in the thing that fundamentally stops the software from functioning the way it's designed to stop. In this particular case, we broke something. Matrix didn't break. And the more important thing was, even when we broke something that theoretically Matrix shouldn't be able to recover from, because if it doesn't have any DNS, how does it talk to the rest of the Federation and figure that? But it figures itself out. It says, I was gone for the last 24 hours, so I need to catch up. What have I missed? And every single room that was on our server got sunk. And watching that through Journal CTL, like watching all those logs come down, I was like, this is just
that's awesome.
The powerfulness of this software. Like I said, once this takes off where it's a simple site that somebody can just show up and sign up on, there's no going back, because no matter what company hosts it, everybody can talk to each other, and people like that. They don't want to sign into more than one thing.
Well, I don't know if I'm using Matrix because I just feel like it's a better product, or because of your passion, but either way, you've made me a huge fan of this project.
Yeah.
This episode of Destination Linux is sponsored by DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean offers the simplest, most cloud-friendly cloud platform in the world. You can get started on DigitalOcean for free with $100 credit by going to do.co/DLN. Now, what you have to understand about DigitalOcean is that they make managing and scaling apps easy. One of the reasons I was willing to take on the idea of hosting a Matrix instance is because it's so easy with DigitalOcean's intuitive API. I don't have to worry about where I'm going to store all the pictures and videos and stuff like that users are going to upload, because DigitalOcean offers me multiple storage options. I don't have to worry about somebody breaking into the server or compromising it, because they have integrated firewalls. Or when we have to scale the server up, it's no problem, because DigitalOcean offers things like load balancing and scaling, those kinds of things. Now, we run our own Unedited game server on a DigitalOcean droplet. So if you have any questions about how good DigitalOcean is, then here's what you do. You owe it to yourself. You tell your spouse, you tell your kids, you tell your boss. You need to spend about a week sitting at home searching the Destination Linux community server on Unedited. It's a free open source game, and you take a week and evaluate all you want all week long. And when you're done, then you go to do.co/DLN. You sign up for your own server, get off ours. No, keep playing Unedited. But you sign up for your own server and see what you can do with DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean recently announced some new features, such as virtual private cloud in all regions free of charge. And what this allows you to do is essentially create a small little mini version of a cloud inside of DigitalOcean's massive network. And that allows you to isolate parts of your workload away from the internet. Now, you're going to get all of this, everything we just talked about. That's $5 a month. No, even their least expensive server comes with all of this stuff. It's like, chips are free, dinner extra. That's this. It's you get all of that stuff for free, and then the only thing that's extra is $5 just to get the server. You can get started. You don't have to pay that $5 because we're going to give you a $100 credit, and you can get that $100 credit by going to do.co/DLN and use that $100 credit for spinning up over a dozen droplets, or even a monster-sized droplets for 2 months. Again, you can get started on DigitalOcean with that free $100 credit by going to do.co/DLN. If you don't do it, you're throwing $100 in the toilet. Don't throw $100 in the toilet.
I always tell people, don't throw $100 in the toilet.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea. Yeah. So thanks again to DigitalOcean for sponsoring this week of Destination Linux, and also for, all the servers that we have through them that make Destination Linux and Ask Noah and Linux Delta and basically everything else we do possible.
It's true.
The entire network would go offline overnight, as would 85% of Ask Noah if DigitalOcean
Front
went
page
down.
Linux, Destination Linux, all of our servers, all of our note servers, everything would pretty much crash. We just gave people the key to taking down the entire network.
I wouldn't even be able to. You know what's funny? If Matrix becomes any more successful, DigitalOcean shuts down. We won't even be able to talk to each other to complain about the fact that our shows have gone offline and the network has gone offline, and like we can't
Hey,
just
Noah,
like reset.
one of our patrons, Nico, said we should throw Ted's $100 in the toilet, though. That's a good point.
Ted does that on a weekly basis. That's what he does with his paycheck. That's why he's sleeping in the kitchen this week, dude. He couldn't pay his rent.
You let him sleep in your kitchen? He's
sleeping in our kitchen. He's sleeping in the DL break room kitchen.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
he's at the DLN stadium, sleeping in our DLN stadium kitchen.
In the break room, yeah. He's curled up around the garbage disposal underneath.
Why are you laughing about our stadium, Michael? We spent tens of millions of dollars building the stadium, and then he's laughing about it like it's
no,
stupid.
we got government grants. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, now that the NFL's dead, we took over one of the stadiums.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Yeah. We renamed it too. It's no longer the Staples Center.
I'm sure there's I'm sure
no
you're
longer
making,
the Staples Center.
I'm sure you're making a joke, and I just want you to know that I also wish to engage in the social construct around sport ball. And I also hope that the team that we like wins at the game that they play.
We don't need to engage in that because we took over their stadiums with DLN.
Exactly. They don't need to.
We'll now win the game that we play, and they will not win the game that they play.
Yeah, exactly.
People aren't coming to the stadium to see us run. Let's be honest.
Can we call it the DL192 Stadium?
Yes. Yeah, we can.
Well, we can. It's our stadium. We can do whatever we want.
The DL Community Stadium. DL192 Community Stadium.
I already heard we sold tens of tickets.
Yeah,
tens of tickets.
Tens. All right. Oh, it's me. Cool.
Mitchell Turner.
All right, that's fine. Yeah, I'm ignoring that. And
Noah's on fire today. I love it.
All right. Oh, I need to have this one. Yeah, that's better. In the community feedback this week, Carl writes us to say, "Hey guys, just wanted to chime in on a question that was mentioned in episode 190 of your show. If GNU/Linux did not exist, what version of Windows or Mac OS would you use? Why not any of the BSD operating systems? They are open source, powerful, and function just like Linux does in the Unix-like fashion. I've been using Linux for about 5 years and BSD for 1 year, and I love them both. Thanks for making my commute to work entertaining, Carl." Thank you for sending in the feedback, Carl. And I think this is an interesting conversation. I'm curious what you both think, and I'll add my tidbit at the end.
I get so many requests to do 30 days of BSD. After I did the 30 days of Linux, which is how I even got on the map in the Linux world, there have been BSD people knocking on the door saying, we want you to do the same thing with BSD. I have played with BSD in the background very, very limited amount of time. The big thing for me that no one's been able to really say is available in BSD is my channel and everything I do is focused on the latest and greatest hardware. Linux has enough issues with working on the latest and greatest hardware, and I hear BSD is worse. I don't know if that's true because, again, I haven't played with it, but that's what personally has always kept me from moving forward, is that knowledge that you're not going to really be able to run a variety. Now, maybe things like AMD's drivers and stuff all work perfectly, and I'm a huge fan of AMD, but I change out equipment constantly, NVIDIA, all of this stuff. And Steam is a big part. People want to see games running on this latest equipment. I understand you can get Steam working, but it's a huge process. And so I almost feel like in my mind, and I could be wrong here, I'm open to somebody changing it, that I'm going back to Linux 6 years ago, where Linux was 6 years ago, prior to Steam getting involved, prior to all the hardware enablement stacks, prior to all of this stuff, to go to BSD. And that's too much of an ask for my workload in what I do.
Here's the thing. Here's the truth, Ryan. What BSD does, they do well. I wouldn't, when TrueNAS announced that they were going to have a Linux part to it, or split to it, I was originally kind of hesitant, because the truth is FreeNAS works. I could care less what the kernel is under there, as long as, yeah, right, it works. So in those circumstances, I think BSD is better than Linux, because BSD has been used longer than Linux in those cases. However, most of the stuff, and this is particularly true on desktop Linux, most of the stuff that works on BSD works because of the work that has been done on Linux that's then been backported or hacked into BSD. It's not that it works on its own. There's some sort of transition layer that allows that software to work. So you're right. You're backing up like 6-7 years and saying, well, now what software, what hardware, whatever works. There's a couple of exceptions to that, and the BSD people are out there going to say, well, as far as networking goes, the BSD has better wireless networking support. That yes, it does, but on the whole, if you take a BSD distro, chances are you're going to have less of an opportunity to get the kind of hardware and software that you would have on a modern Linux distro.
Yeah, and so to just kind of add to that real quick, because you brought up an interesting point I wasn't even thinking about. I have a FreeNAS server. I tried switching to these other alternatives that are more traditional Linux, and I did not like them. I didn't like them, and I went right back to it. So for FreeNAS, but it's an older server. It's a server and it's not a desktop. And what I need on it is for backup storage, maybe running media of server, Plex server, whatever on it. I don't need any of the stuff I would need on a desktop. So from that purpose, love FreeNAS and what it represents. Everything else, I don't see it for a desktop.
I personally think that BSD's biggest claim to fame is FreeNAS, and I can't think of another one. Like there are certain things that BSD is great at, and also the ZSH or ZFS support is a great thing that works really well on BSD. But as Noah said, my entire thing is like the entire package has to be that piece where if without the whole package of the usability and that sort of stuff, like we're still working on Linux having that too, to be admittedly. So BSD is, in my opinion, way far behind Linux in that aspect, and that's why I wouldn't be able to use it as a daily driver. Play with it, sure. I've used it before, and also in the chat, Jacob made a good point about pfSense. Is another one of those. Yeah. That is another one of those fantastic BSD based things. But in terms of like appliance-based solutions, there's a lot of great BSD value. But in terms of like the overall like desktop approach, Linux is where I.
Now, I will tell you though, if Linux goes down a route that I think we're at this fork that we could possibly go down, where we just pile in all this proprietary stuff and forget about the foundation of open source. Well, heck, I may be looking very deeply at BSD and putting up with that stuff, because to me, that philosophy of open source privacy, namely, and not having proprietary stuff layered on top of and taking over an operating system is the most important part of Linux to me. So in that case, I would probably bite the bullet and use BSD.
Let me ask you this. Does the licensing play an effect for you at all? Does it come into effect? Does the licensing play into it from the standpoint that no matter, there's no guarantee that any development that is made on BSD will actually be contributed back? There's nothing to stop anybody from taking BSD and just going, oh, that works well, collect proprietary license, ship it, screw you.
Yes.
Does that bother you?
Does it bother you, Ryan? Because I can guarantee you, yes. It
does. I thought you were answering that it was.
Well, I mean, it bothers me, yes. But I'm curious.
I mean,
about
that's how
yours.
Apple came around, as I understand, right? Was kind of taking portions of this and making it proprietary and going their own route. So, I mean, yeah, it bothers me from that aspect, but these are things that could be fixed, I think, if it became as popular on the desktop as Linux is today. And I think the point that it could become that popular is at the point that Linux goes down the road where we just accept every proprietary piece of crap that Microsoft throws out there and stick it on our system, and it becomes this tool of just the same thing. Why don't I just boot Windows, because all my metadata is going out through the apps instead of the operating system, but the same problem exists. So in that case, I would be, I think me and a lot of other people who are hardcore open source privacy enthusiasts would be looking for alternatives.
Let's not go back into that topic we did a couple episodes ago in the terms of proprietary aspects, because there are some that are not that bad. But anyway, the difference is that I think the ideology of this license is very strong, and I doubt they would change it, because essentially the GPL I think the GPL doesn't go far enough, but they do go farther than the BSD license, where the BSD license allows you to do anything you want, doesn't matter. And if that includes closing the source, you can totally do that too. And I think that is one of the things that holds BSD back. And if they were wanting to improve their overall desktop experience and overall structure and get companies behind it, I do think that they would need to have something like that. Like their position and their licensing is great for the companies who don't want to contribute, but for the things, for the actual platform itself, I think it holds it back.
Don't you tell me ever what to get into, Michael. I will throat punch you.
Okay, so let's get into a fight between me and Ryan. We're gonna box. It's gonna be like one of those YouTube boxing matches.
Listen, I'll take that any day of the week. If you want to solve an argument that way, let's do it.
No, well, I'm bigger than you, so I'll take it. I'll do it.
Ryan's like, for 25 years, I've been holding it in. They've been telling me this is an ineffective way to deal with stress and conflict. You want to do it? Let's go.
Okay. I think we've decided we're gonna do a boxing match in the same style of Logan Paul and the YouTube crap.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, we'd sell tens of tickets.
Tens in our arena. Exactly.
We could have training videos we release and stuff.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Closing, Noah, go 2 seconds.
Hold on. We love hearing from our worldwide community. We have many ways for your voice to be heard. You can send us a short email or video that may get incorporated to the show. Send your video links or emails to comments@destinationlinux.org.
Go, Michael. Goey,
Michael. All right.
Don't mess this up. Literally, if you mess this up, something terrible is going to happen to Ted.
Ted is going to be in the match now. It's going to be a triple threat.
Mess up. Mess up. Please mess up.
Triple threat.
Mess up. Please mess up.
Wow, you don't like Ted, huh?
She's just kind of,
Yeah, sure.
She's Ted.
I get it. All right.
Oh, Michael, did you hit the record button? Did we ask you at the beginning of the show?
Did you push the button?
Yeah.
So testing that halfway through, already doing the interview, is not very good efficiency. You need to put that in your super productivity tab and make sure that
put that on my super productivity tab.
And yes, I did, because it is on my super productivity tab. Eating out of the trash can. What?
He's hungry.
Ted, we fed him yesterday, didn't we?
We fed him yesterday.
I let him out. I don't know if I fed him. I let him outside.
Oh. Well, we'll feed him tomorrow. Get out of there.
Now he's a pet.
Don't call him a pet.
He doesn't like that.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Warden.
All right. Our security advisory this week is brought to you by Bitwarden. So our security advisory this week is about staying vigilant with protecting senior family members and stuff like that for people who are just not as skilled and technologically as what's the phrase for that?
Technologically involved, technologically savvy,
savvy. That's it. I wanted to say something that doesn't sound
now
negative.
Something terrible happens to Ted.
No, that wasn't a mess up. That was just making sure I phrased it right. That's actually
this is a really important topic, and I need you to treat it with some real passion here, Michael. Okay.
Passion for
and
this.
Go. And act.
And act. Lights, camera. A security advisory this week is brought to you by Bitwarden. So this week we're doing it's like a PSA to stay vigilant with protecting senior family members or just anyone who's not they technologically savvy, because it's a growing billion-dollar scamming market that is targeting at elderly and people who are just not familiar with what the proper ways to do things online. So the scammers are getting more sophisticated by the minute, and there is a growing interest in targeting elderly to take advantage of them. And the ways you can keep your parents safe, and your grandparents and stuff like that, is to educate them on the ways that scammers are tricking people, posing as companies they actually do business with, putting spam call protection on their phones and devices, put them on like do not call lists, that kind of thing. With their permission, work with them to lock down their credit from the 3 credit bureaus, staying in touch and close so you can pick up potential scams for them. So if they may not be getting, you can kind of help guide them through that process. With their permission, work with the bank and to put with like withdrawal limits on their bank accounts and stuff like that. So just in case they do get scammed, they won't get scammed to like a massive degree. And also purchase like a mail shredder for their home for like the spammy everything. Everyone gets all this nonsense mail in their mailbox every single day, basically. And also there's many other things. Like another one is to consider like getting a credit card instead of a debit card, because there's some potential of a debit card backfiring in certain ways. But you can look into that, just so you know. But also there's another great way of getting them help is also getting them with a great password manager. And that thing, what we suggest, is Bitwarden. So you can get a great open source password manager that we use and trust called Bitwarden. You can go to bitwarden.com/DLN to get started for free. And Bitwarden is the easiest and safest way for individuals, teams, and businesses to store, share, and sync sensitive data. With my favorite thing about Bitwarden is that it's just so convenient to use. You have the ability to use it on your mobile devices, desktop, browser plugins, and even the command line if you want to do that. So you can, if you want to teach them into command line and also use there's the option for you. But what's really great is that when you want to create a password, you want to store that password, and you want to autofill that password, so you don't have to do most of the work yourself. That's what Bitwarden allows you to do, because they have the password generator, that they have a password vault, and they have the autofilling password. So Bitwarden is a fantastic piece of software, and you definitely need to check it out. And of course, one of the reasons we love Bitwarden is because it is open source software. And in addition to the open source software, you can even self-host it if you want to, and they even do security audits. You have to be very confident in your code to be a password management tool and open sourcing that code, because you have a very, very highly targeted set of data. And if you're confident enough to put open source, that means a lot. But in addition to that, they also are hiring security firms to audit their code to make sure it is as good as they are, and that they're accurate in being that confident, which is just fantastic to see. So if you want to get your account, you can go to bitwarden.com/DLN and get started for free, or you can get their premium account, which is actually a very reasonable price of $10 per year. That's right, per year. And you get 1 gigabyte of encrypted file storage, 2-step login with YubiKey, U2F, Duo, and more, Vault Health Reports, TOTP, that's temporary one-time password authenticator storage and generation, priority customer support, and more. So make the smart move like many from the community have, and go to bitwarden.com/DLN to get started for free. But if you're like me though, you want to show your support, your appreciation and your support by signing up for their premium edition, especially since that premium edition only starts at $10 per year. So thanks Bitwarden for sponsoring this episode of Destination Linux and the Destination Linux Network.
So in the news this week, XFCE has 4.16, which is set to impress. This is a pre-release right now, but there's a lot of things going in here. Now, XFCE typically has a much longer development cycle than some of the desktop environments a lot of people are used to. But when a big drop of code happens, I love to cover it, because XFCE has been, well, it's home for me in the Linux world, because it was the first desktop environment that I fell in love with, that worked immediately with my workflow. And I just have this, I'll always have this extreme love for XFCE, no matter what other desktop environment I'm using. It's like Michael and his fascination with KDE, probably.
Well, I also, when I first started using KDE, I immediately also liked it. So
immediate sure.
That's what you said.
Is that like a snipey rifle?
That's what you said.
Darn it!
I did. I'm gonna send you the clip.
Oh well.
But so the KDE was like the same thing when I was always jumping around different DEs, and I was like, okay, yeah, I like this and it's good enough, blah blah. But when I first found KDE, it was the same kind of thing. And XFCE had that when I realized the value of XFCE once I learned the value of Plasma, because they both had the same problem of, by default, they were kind of a little bit problematic in terms of like how they look, and they needed a lot of more polish. And then when I started seeing what the value of, ignoring the polish missing and learning what the value of KDE was, and I also did the same thing with XFCE, and they both are fantastic DEs. So I completely agree with the like. I understand your love for XFCE, even whether you use it or not. It does have that kind of like they both have for me that kind of a position in the so much potential in those DEs.
Right, exactly. So this release here, they have some additions that I'm particularly interested in, such as the support for fractional scaling. So better fallback in case there's any misconfiguration, things like that. That's just a big deal right now. It's not only just a big deal, it's kind of you better have it if you're going to be a DE taken seriously right now, because everything is moving to higher DPI screens, and it's just frankly a necessity. Dark mode for the panels. Come on, I know you guys are huge dark mode.
That's a deal breaker for me.
Yeah. So now you can use it and have the dark mode on there. Go ahead, Noah.
Well, I was just going to ask, when did you start using XFCE, and I guess, when you compare it to other desktops, why do you keep coming back to it?
For me, XFCE is about having all of the customization, which really is one of the key things when you think about a desktop environment between Windows or Mac OS and Linux. We have the customization. You can do what you want with the desktop. But it was easy enough for me as a brand new user that, unlike in KDE when I was trying it when I was new, and I would get lost, especially then, because this is 4 years ago, in the settings and where the settings were and everything else, how to move panels. Do you remember, Michael, 4 years ago when you would open up a panel in KDE to adjust it? And I don't know. I just remember so many things of dialog boxes popping up in random places. And then if you deleted something on accident, there was no way to get it back. There were all of these little annoyances. Now, those don't exist necessarily today in KDE. I'm talking 4 years ago as a new user. XFCE, everything was simple. If I wanted to create a brand new panel, the menu there was right-click on my current panel, add another panel, boom, it's done. I want to change the size. It's right there in that same menu that I just added that new panel in. Everything is intuitive. You want to change the time clock from 24 to 12 hours, right-click on the time. It was those simple ability to fully customize the XFCE desktop that makes it beautiful. To me, because I didn't have to go hunting for special features or open up a web browser to figure out where that setting was. It was just intuitive.
You want to edit the clock, you just right-click the clock. You want to edit anything else, you just right-click the thing you want to edit.
Literally right-click it. Yeah. Everything you want to edit pretty much is a right-click in XFCE, and I think that simple brilliance is what makes them so great. I also just love Sean Davis and that team and their general attitude. They were kind of one of the first ones that I had feedback for, and were really listening and engaging with me and my interest in Linux at the time. So that always helps as well. But in this particular release, you also have Thunar that has some updates like copying and moving can be paused now, which I like. Support for queued file transfer and initial support to remember view settings per directory, which is pretty cool there. So there's just a lot of neat things that they're working on. They're still moving away from the GTK2 platform, correct, Michael, into GTK3. I don't think they've fully transitioned yet.
Right. They transitioned the vast majority of the stuff to GTK3, but there are still some underlying like codes that's GTK2 that they're trying to completely remove the GTK2 dependency, which is very good and it's necessary for that to be happening because GTK2 is deprecated and no longer worked on. So it is good that they're upgrading to GTK3 in that sense. And I do think that XFCE is one of those DEs that it has like a ton of potential. And I think the only reason that XFCE is in the position where they are, we're like kind of slow to release stuff, is because there's just so few people working on it. Like I think there's like a total.
They've literally
of 3,
said that.
Maybe. Yeah. So like if they had some more people working on it and there was people interested in participating in XFCE, I think there's a lot of potential for XFCE. And one of the things that I like about it is that they do take in consideration the idea of having everything as all in one, being just super simple to edit stuff. Just right click the thing you want to edit and there you go. When you were talking about the KDE thing, I would still say that KDE is a little bit more too confusing. in terms of like how you do everything by default is still
even today
still there. Yeah, still there. I mean, it's gotten a lot better, but I think it's still in that position where it used to be way worse. What Ryan was talking about, it was very, very confusing. Now it's improved, but they also move things to random places that is not really obvious. And also right clicking on things is not typically how you edit stuff unless it's like a panel related thing. But in terms of like most of the stuff you want to change are in system settings. And when you go into system settings, it's kind of like a puzzle in itself. So the thing about XFCE's control center is it's also itself very simplistic in the approach. It's like you want to go to the appearance section, okay, click that, and there's everything that relates to this. Whereas in KDE's Plasma structure, you go into system settings, you have appearance, okay, well also there's themes and look and feel themes and colors and a bunch of other stuff. Like that's and icons are separate and fonts are separate. It's like it's just so many things are kind of like scattered around that it makes it confusing. So I think the way that XFCE is doing it is quite good.
So there you go. Check out XFCE 4.16. It should be released coming in November.
Was that good, or did we?
No, I thought it was
good.
Fine.
Yeah. It was okay.
Actually, we went deeper in it than I thought we were going to go, so we're going to have to make up some time. But yeah, we're good.
Yeah. Also, no, I don't know if you know. I think your mute's not working or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, that's
it is working.
Mute. Okay.
It's just there was once or twice there was might have not hit the mute button or something. I don't know. But it's not. It was not a time where it doesn't matter. I can easily cut it out. So I was just making sure.
Okay. Ted's supposed to mute for him.
Yeah. How dare you?
Yeah.
Ted?
Thanks a lot, Ted. All right.
Go 2 seconds.
Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard that NVIDIA has bought out ARM, or at least proposed to buy it in the largest acquisition of a semiconductor company in history. So we had a discussion, Ryan, Michael, and I all got together on Ask Noah on Tuesday, and we had a discussion on the merger concerns. Today, we're going to dig in a little bit more in depth on what this deal means. So the cliff notes are that NVIDIA has proposed to buy ARM, of course, NVIDIA being a US-based company, ARM being a UK-based company who also was owned by an investment firm, and then they got sold to Japan. And you'll have to go back to Ask Noah and get caught up, or go read one of the many articles that are out there on the topic. But the situation has continued to unfold since then, and we're going to cover what has changed. So I guess, Ryan, you have spent a tremendous amount of time digging into this and really understanding and following these things. You also understand this technology because you work with it on a day-to-day basis. Where do we start? What has happened since Tuesday?
Well, I think the interesting occurrence for me has been seeing the different analyst takes and also companies that are involved with this or involved in some way with this acquisition, either the fact that their company would be involved in it, or from a financial perspective, or from a government policy standpoint, some of the things that will occur. One particular instance was discussing an analyst that said the NVIDIA takeover could drive chip manufacturers to explore engagement with other open source technology companies. So I started looking out there because a lot of people were leaving comments about RISC-V, to find out, well, what's actually happening? Is RISC-V actually getting any additional hits? Well, there's a particular company out there that actually has gone public to talk about this called Sci-Fi. And the CEO of Sci-Fi, Patrick Little, came out and was saying that, in fact, ever since this announcement was made, that the amount of communication pouring into him, companies inquiring about his company and the technology utilizing RISC-V, has just grown tenfold. And when I started looking at the investment portfolios for the companies that are backing Sci-Fi, you're looking at Intel, Western Digital, Qualcomm, a lot of companies that are directly impacted by the acquisition that could take place here between NVIDIA and ARM. So this entire thing has fascinated me from that perspective, because there's this kind of additional piece that has taken off this week as well with Samsung. So Samsung and AMD have been partnering with the Xenos mobile chips, incorporating AMD's RDNA graphics into them. This has already been in process. So now when I was kind of looking at all of this battlefield unfolding here, if you look at it from NVIDIA's perspective, they have this partnership taking place with the biggest flagship Android ARM-based device out there, in which AMD's RDNA GPU technology could be incorporated in their latest phone. Some are rumoring that it will even be incorporated in the new Nintendo Switch 2. Don't know if that will happen, but that would mean the entire console market dominated by the AMD platform there, and NVIDIA sitting there single threaded as a company, making GPUs and some AI and leveraging what they can do with their GPUs, but essentially single threaded against all the other companies like AMD, Intel, Qualcomm's, and others. And so I really think from an NVIDIA standpoint, brilliant move. But I'm also really interested in seeing how this pushes some additional technology forward in the RISC-V form factor, because what people were rumoring that could happen, like maybe companies will go to RISC-V, at least based on the initial this week that has passed, these companies behind these RISC-V architectures are starting to see that exact thing happen. So there's a lot of damage control potentially taking place, or at least inquiries from all of these companies that rely on ARM today. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, I think that's
That
really
is cool.
really interesting, and I think that the idea that AMD is going to be maybe taking over the Switch as well as the rest of the consoles, just that is it makes a lot more sense that Nvidia is very scared about what could possibly happen with their
Absolutely.
with their line of products. So that is pretty interesting.
Why is Intel looking to leverage themselves into these other technologies? It seems as though, even though there is more progression being made on the ARM side, all of the really high end power stuff still run on x86 or some alternative architecture. Doesn't seem like ARM's quite there yet. Help me, as a person that doesn't have a lot of experience in this area, Ryan or Michael. Why is it that Intel is looking to leverage themselves and trying to find other architectures like RISC?
Well, if you've been watching the news, Intel's kind of been in trouble, right? They've been stuck in this 14 nanometer fabrication process. And what they've done with it, by the way, and I love Intel because of all the work they do in open source. So I hope all of this shifts for them in the future. But Intel hasn't been hurt financially yet, but from an R&D standpoint, from a keeping up with the market, they're behind. Everyone else moving to these fabrication processes including Apple now, that are 7 and 5 nanometer base. That nanometer piece by itself doesn't make a big deal, the 14 versus the 5. Where it makes a big deal is providing the amount of space on that processor to pack in more transistors, to pack in more cores, to do additional chips outside of just the cores themselves onto that chip, and allows you to do great things like ARM's big little architecture, for instance, the ability to have very powerful processors, also very power friendly processors, all on that same chip. And you're turning them on and off so that you can conserve battery and also give you that power boost when you need it. These are things that Intel, basically their 10 nanometer process that they had in place for 6+ years, they've been trying to get out, which was a huge, in fact, they're getting sued for it from some companies that basically have said that Intel has misled the market into believing that they were further along in these processes than they have, has forced Intel now to outsource to additional companies to try to get into this fabrication process so that they can compete in here. So for Intel, yeah, they have been in trouble. I don't want to say they're in trouble because they have massive amounts of money that they can leverage to get themselves out, but they're in trouble from a market standpoint because things are moving quicker than Intel is able to react.
That's a very interesting perspective. I knew about the Intel's issue with outsourcing, which I always find interesting, but I also like the idea, like the fact that Sci-Fi gave us information about like all the interest in RISC-V actually has me kind of excited, because RISC-V is one of those architectures that is, it's like the ideologically sound architecture that when I found out about it, it was like, this is fantastic. I hope something happens that makes it a big deal. And this whole announcement, like when we were, speculating that maybe it would. So the fact that Sci-Fi is actually saying that, yes, they are getting a lot of inquiries about this with a lot of different companies, I think that's fantastic. And I I hope that continues and RISC-V becomes a position where it can actually battle ARM, whether or not NVIDIA even buys ARM. That doesn't matter. I want RISC-V to get to that level. Where
RISC-V is completely open source hardware.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if RISC-V can get boosted from this, and not that I don't wish NVIDIA an ARM success in here, but if we can get another player in there, look, this always helps the market, no matter what. You don't want one company dominating. You don't want a monopoly at the top. So if you can have RISC-V get propped from this and enough big companies push RISC-V and you have this open source hardware architecture out there, this is the best thing possible if that is the outcome, if that's the outcome that occurs from this, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there any implications to the larger industry if there is too much competition in the hardware space? So for example, is it hard for developers if we go from I have to support Windows, Mac, and Linux to, well, it all runs Linux, but I have to have an ARM port and a RISC-V port and an Intel port does that matter at all, or am I creating problems that don't exist?
I mean, I think it matters to a degree. Do developers prefer to have one or two places that they're writing applications for? Absolutely. But if you remember, even in the phone market, before Android and Apple by itself essentially dominated everything, there were developers developing for BlackBerry. There were developers developing for Palm Pre's. There were developers developing for Android and iOS. And, all of those individual phone entities were successful in their own right. Now, obviously, the monopolies kind of came in and took it all over, but I think the developers just want an audience, and I think they will be able to adapt. And the other thing is that the tools that developers are using today are making it much easier to export to different types of platforms when you're done with your program. And it's not perfect, but it's getting way better than it ever was before. I'm not a developer. This is just the information that developers I talk to tell me. So your ability to go on multiple platforms with the end of your result with these engines and things is just much easier today than it's ever been. So I think we can overcome that issue from the software side and not have to worry about there being too much competition in the hardware side. I think we need more competition in the hardware side. We've seen the damage that it does to the industry to have Intel dominating for 10 years and to have NVIDIA dominating the GPUs for as long as they have. What happens is you end up overpaying, you get iterative upgrades. The laws are out the door with the continuation of growth and innovation when you don't have that competition there. So more competition, the merrier, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the hardware side. And also, just a quick note, I would like to have people put F in the chats for respect of the loss of WebOS.
I do miss WebOS, man. I really miss WebOS.
Yeah. What are some of the implications as we go forward with NVIDIA being the player that they are now, and with this company being US based? Is that concerning for software developers, Linux people that run services maybe outside the US? There's a discussion to be had about what China is going to do. And some of these things we touched on Ask Noah, but I think a lot of them are even more relevant today than they were even a week ago because things have continued to evolve.
I think there's a big concern out there about this, but I think the bigger concern is really, does NVIDIA continue ARM's current model, or do they just take this as a way to take the Mali GPUs, for instance, and just incorporate themselves in the design? Because ARM doesn't actually sell any products. They just sell the licenses, incorporate themselves within all of the design and force everybody to use that with proprietary instruction sets that NVIDIA is kind of known for. They do open source stuff, so I don't want to say they don't, but they have a lot more closed source proprietary software offerings out there, and basically kind of break the model that made AMD so popular in the first place. I think, they obviously need to get return on their $40 billion investment. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to leverage their NVIDIA product within for the AI elements and everything else on the server front. It's just how they go about that. Do they end up hurting the competition in the process, or do they actually continue to keep it open and be a good patron of the community, if you will? I think most people believe NVIDIA's, at least for the first little while, going to stick with the current architecture so they don't scare people off. But what happens after that, that can be scary. But certainly taking all the big tech companies and focusing them all in one country can have big impacts as well, because we do get in trade wars and things at times, and that can affect other companies' ability to innovate and release products.
And then that translates to an inability for us to purchase products or have companies fighting with not fighting, but competing with each other to deliver a better product at a lower price to us.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why this is big news. If you're one of those people who's heard it on the Ask Noah show, you heard it. We have it talking about on Hardware Addicts. You hear it on Destination Linux, and you're wondering, why is everybody talking about this? It's because of the implications this can have are far reaching past just NVIDIA buying a regular company. This particular company they're buying happens to power so many of the devices that we use today. I guarantee you, every single person, if you have electronics in your home at all, have some ARM-based devices in your home.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Did that feel like we did that justice?
I don't know. Did we? Let's ask our patrons. Did we do it justice, patrons?
Do you feel like you learned more today than you knew coming in here? That would have.
Yes, I do. You were like, I'm gonna ask you, and maybe Michael, and I was like, no, not me.
Well, that's part of the problem, right? Like
maybe I was talking too much.
No. It was. Good.
I don't think so. I think you know more about it than the both of us combined.
Yeah, so I think it's your explanation was great, and I think you made a lot of great points and stuff like that. I think there was just when I was making a joke about it, it's like when Noah was introducing it, he said like when I asked you Ryan and maybe Michael, I was like, no, just Ryan. It's not just Ryan.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Okay, yeah, I think we're good. We'll rely on Ted's editing ability. He can edit it, make it sound like fire.
Well, geez, now we're going nowhere in life.
Oh, Keegan said he's learned more about stools today than he ever knew, so we've nailed it.
Perfect.
Well, good. I mean, that's what we were aiming for.
Exactly. Yes. Also, he asked Keegan said something about not knowing what WebOS is. WebOS is the operating system that Palm created in 2009.
Best mobile operating system ever.
Yeah, it was absolutely the best. It was smooth. It was efficient. They just managed it so badly that they just completely dropped the ball on it, and it's very sad because there is a fork of it now in LunaOS, but it's not the same thing. But having a big company behind it, but yeah, WebOS. That's why the F. For those who don't know, the F in the chat is a video game meme where you, for some reason, in one of these games, you have to tap F on your keyboard to show respect in some stupid video game, and that's just where it came from. But
next question: what is this Palm you speak of?
Palm the company?
Are we old now? Are we old now?
How do you not know what Palm is? Do I need to go bring out my handspring visor trio and my Palm?
I think Michael Palm actually still has one.
Yeah, I do. Actually,
I still have one. I love it.
Yeah, it's right here. Yeah, actually, I have it. Yeah. I'm such a huge fan of WebOS and the Palm Pre. I have a Palm Pre Plus. I have a bunch of phones. I put all the phones in a box because I don't care. And the only one that is left out on the shelf is the Palm Pre Plus with WebOS. It still works, not well, because their hardware was actually kind of bad, but their software was fantastic, and I'm still a fan of it. And for those who are aware of the LG WebOS, yes, LG did buy HP's WebOS from HP. HP bought Palm, and Palm completely fumbled. And then HP fumbled even more, and then they just bought it to LG, and LG turned it into a TV thing. And then it was also open sourced at some point, and LunaOS became a fork of it. It's one of the saddest thing because it is such a fantastic phone interface. And in a way, it's actually kind of like a prerequisite to what GNOME became in terms of the interface and a phone.
Jeez, I never even thought about that.
Yeah, because they look very, very similar. If you go back and look at any of the stuff from their tablets or the phones, they're like very similar. And they also were the first people to create the card system for multitasking, and which was stolen by everyone. But WebOS was the one who invented it, and a bunch of other stuff. Like WebOS was fantastic. They just managed it very badly. So.
That the other thing is too is let's be honest, they came to the party a little late, right? By this point,
they were only like a year and a half late.
Yeah, they were late to Noah's point. Yeah.
They were late, but the reason they failed is because they were late and they showed all of their features before releasing their phone.
Next week, the whole story is going to be WebOS, why we love it.
That'd be great. I mean,
I'll learn a lot then.
I love WebOS, so let's do it.
You saying you didn't learn a lot today, computer kid?
I mean, I did, but I'd learn even more then.
Okay, good.
Because I've never even heard of it before now.
Good answer.
I mean, I've heard of it, never know what it really was.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so we got to go quick and wrap up the show.
Let's do it.
You ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
This week in our gaming section, we are going to talk about a name. Michael, help me please. Carrion.
Carrion.
Something.
Carrion.
I don't
know. There we go. Let's go with that.
Close enough. If I got it wrong, it's Michael's fault. So this is a game with native Linux support. It's a game that's great leading up to Halloween because it has this horror element to it. It's made by Phobia Game Studio, and it is a reverse horror game in which you assume the role of a amorphous creature of unknown origins, stalking and consuming those that imprisoned you to begin with. So you get to slop around the map like a meatball with tentacles and destroy all of these people around and eat them and destroy their buildings and everything else that have, imprisoned you here. I mean, you get a red tentacled monster that you get to upgrade throughout and destroy barricades and everything around you and eat people. It's perfect for Halloween. Go check it out. Plus, the most important part, native Linux support. So you don't need any translation layers or anything else in there. You could just download this game and start playing it.
Can I shoot people?
No, you can eat them, though. Does that count?
No, I have to shoot people. Hey, can we add the Xenotic thing on?
Oh, yeah, let me do that real quick. And the last thing I want to talk about is making sure that you are playing Xenotic with the Destination Linux community. So what has happened since this server has gone up, thanks to DigitalOcean, it's able to get the server up really easy and quick, is that, for instance, when Michael and I joined the Ask Noah show this week, right after the show, what did we all do? We jumped onto the Xenotic server and we just had a battle royale right there. So if you're not looking out and playing on this server, then you're missing out on those opportunities to game with us and the community out there. We really want to revitalize this game. This is such a brilliant open source game out there that's available in your distro's repository, and you could just go download it and start playing and have a blast. We have a Destination Linux server. Just start typing Destination Linux in the filter under multiplayer and it will pop up. And if you're alone and nobody's on it right then, you still get to fight Michael AI bots, which, by the way, this is a huge announcement, breaking news here. Michael AI bots are based on the AI that I wrote in Python that downloaded Michael's entire brain into a program. I mean, NASA and everybody is studying this code I wrote, and that is what is powering these Michael AI bots.
Yeah,
so it's
very impressive.
That
They're
alone,
very
you
good
should
at
go
the
check
game.
it out. Yeah, absolutely.
Man, if only you could write something like super productivity.
No, I'm not that good.
That's so insulting. It's so insulting.
What?
Yeah, we could take someone's brain, but I can't write a to-do app.
Well, your brain was only 186 lines of code. So.
All right. Okay. Let's move on. All right. Go 2 seconds.
This week, we continue our exploration of the Linux file system. If you've probably sat down at a Windows computer or a Mac, you've probably clicked through the file hard drive and figured out what the file structure is of those two systems. People sit down on a Linux system and it seems like it's a little bit different. Where's my computer? Where's drive C? How do the directory structures match up? Well, over the past few weeks, we've been covering what these directories are. We've gone through temp, bin, boot, dev, etc, lib, media, and op. This week, we're going to cover /proc. /proc is a virtual directory containing information about your CPU and the kernel of your Linux system that is running. Now, again, everything in Linux is a file, and that is advantageous because it allows us to address things and use things in the same way. So if you wanted to see, let's see what your configuration for SSH is. You might type the word cat for to spit out the text, cat space, and then /etc/ myconfig.cfg, and it would spit out the config file. Well, if you wanted to learn about your processor or see what was going on, you might cat proc /CPU info, and that will tell you things like how many threads your processor has, if virtualization is enabled, what generation of processor it is, what make and model it is, all those kinds of things. You'll see all the processor flags that are on there. And so again, like Some of the other ones, Proc is one of the ones that we recommend that you go and take a look at. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you change anything, but going through and seeing what's in that directory and seeing what you can learn about your system from grepping information in there is something I would invite you to do. As an example, lsmod is the same as cat proc / modules. And so if some of these commands that you may be used to running are going to take information out of the /proc out of the /proc folder and present that to you in a slightly different way. But it's important that you know where these resources are and how they work.
Nice.
The software spotlight this week is Picard. And no, that's not based on the TV show. We're talking about a music...
I call him Bullet Head, so it'd have to be Bullet Head if it was based on the TV show. Okay, continue.
Of course. Of course. We reached out to the Mastodon, reached out on Mastodon for software applications to you, so you feel like needs a shout out on the show, and we got a reply from... Let's start over.
Huh, I've never heard that user. Is he like a big part of the community? Let's start over.
Yes. Yes. All right.
It's Ted's username on Matrix.
The software spotlight this week is Picard, or Music Brain's Picard to be specific. It's not based on the TV show or, the character from Star Trek Next Generation.
Who was called Bullet Head, not Picard.
Okay, so sure, why not? We reached out onto Mastodon for software applications you feel deserve a shout out in our spotlight, and Morrow replied with Music Brain's Picard. First, you always get our attention with a name something after Star Trek, so of course we're definitely going to check that out. And second, this is a great open source application for music library tagging. So some of the features that this application has is Picard supports all popular music formats, including MP3s, FLAC, OGA or OGG, M4A, WMA, WAV, and just a bunch more. Picard uses Acoust ID for audio fingerprints, allowing files to be identified by the actual music, not just the tags, even if they have no metadata. And Picard can look up entire music CDs with a click, and a bunch of other plugins as well for like a suite of available feature add-ins and that kind of stuff. So if you're looking for any kind of way to tag your MP3s or your music collection, check out Music Brain's Picard, because it is a great application for that.
So a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love you for it. And if you want more DL, you should consider becoming a patron like all of these beautiful people here with us today. Patrons get a bunch of perks, like access to the live recording of the show, where they get to hang out and correct all of our mistakes. And they get to learn all of the information that happens and all of the side conversations that take place in between some of these articles that we're talking about. And if you can't make it when we're recording live, that's okay, because patrons get unedited versions of the show. So you get to hear all of that awesome information. And most importantly, troll Michael and Ted live.
I mean, Ted, sure, but not Michael, for sure. No, that's not how that works. But what you can do also is check out the Destination Linux store by going to dlnstore.com, and there you can get a bunch of swag and merch from t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, stickers, and much more. And we're actually be adding a lot more to the store soon, so go check it out, dlnstore.com.
You might think it's time for the show to be over, but you'd be wrong. It's actually time for you to come over and join the DLN community. And if you don't join now, for the next 10 minutes only, it's free. You can join up. There's no charge, nothing. You can join the shindig. All the resources are open to everyone. Best thing about it, after that 10 minutes expires, another 10 minutes free is going to roll right after it. So if you want to get in on this action, we invite you to go over to destinationlinux.network, join the forums, join the Telegram group, join the Discord server, get connected with the community. Help us help you learn to love Linux more. And if you want more interactive chat, then you go over to the Telegram group and we'll direct you into Xenodic so we can 1v1.
Or the Matrix group,
Or the Matrix group. That's right.
That's true too. And also, if you want to check out some more content, there's a lot of awesome content on the Destination Linux Network. So go to destinationlinux.network, where you'll find all sorts of open source goodness from podcasts, YouTube channels, and so much more.
Everybody have a great week, and remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.
Yeah, we did it at 3:01. We ended at 3:01.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, means we hit our even though we got started a little late, we still ended.
Yeah, even though Michael delayed us,
we started on time.
Your amazing prep led us to end on time.
Yeah, thank you so much for allowing us to start at 1:25.
We started at 1:15.
25. No, we did not start at 1:15.
Yes,
no, we did not.
Let's review the tape.
Roll the tape, Ted.
What do you mean you don't have a tape?
Oh my gosh, he's using
Ted
the
says
litter
we're
box
doing this
right
in
now.
some sort of digital thing now. We don't even have tapes anymore.
Come on, Ted.
He's just got Scotch tape. He's just using a Scotch tape.
Can't record this on.
He's not even paying
tape.
attention. He's in the litter box.
I don't know what you mean. MP4.
What does that
What is
mean?
MP4? We're not listening to.
I know he's
we're
a
not
pet
listening to
now, but
music. Michael,
what?
He's not supposed to use the litter box during the show.
take Ted
Before
outside
the
to pee.
show. Jerk.
What is this? Ted has become a mythical person to a mythical creature to a pet to a...
No, he's a regular person, Michael. He doesn't have any money, so we got him a litter box. I'm not paying for plumbing for him.
And he eats out of the trash can too.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we stopped that. So actually, he doesn't.
Yeah, we slapped his wrist. It's like, bad Ted.
Yeah, the vet said he was
Bad
overweight.
Ted. Yeah. Put him back in his kennel. Michael, did you take Ted out to pee?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good.
What is
I'll bring
this?
him back in and have him edit the show.
Everybody, you can turn your cameras on and mics on and everything. Just join
I'm
us. in the
turning mine off
post-show.
because we need to play some Xenotic. I'm thinking, I don't know. I mean, I think we got 10 minutes. To play some
Xenotic. Hey, I got my butt handed to me in Xenotic the other day. Somebody wanted to play and I couldn't say no. So I played and then died.
Naturally.
Because I didn't have a mouse. I just had a trackpad.
Oh, that was when we were playing on Tuesday. Do you have a mouse now?
No, I had no. I have a trackball. Tuesday that happened, but no, it happened again. I don't remember who it was in the somebody pinged me in chat and was like, "Hey, do you want to play Xenotic?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah, it's Friday or Thursday."
Oh, you respond to other people?
That's the more surprising
Well,
part.
you know, if I like them.
You respond?
Everyone's in shock. Wait a minute. That's not true.
Just the people I like.
Oh,
That makes sense.
Oh, wait, so you don't like me? Oh, I'm hurt.
That explains why he doesn't respond to me too.
Love
Yeah.
Neil. I love you, Michael.
I'm loading up Xenotic right now in case anybody wants to meet me there. I mean, we still.
Fine.
I'll
I guess.
chat,
I
you know,
guess
just-
if you're gonna
just come
make me
be-
play a game, God,
I mean, I feel like
you're forcing me to play a game, and I don't appreciate that. But I guess I'll just do
I
it.
feel like I need to school the patrons on how to properly play a video game here. Yes, that's a challenge.
Of course.
Man, they're already in the server. There's 2 of them in here already. Gosh, now I regret challenging them. I didn't think anyone would show up. I thought I'd just be killing Michael AR bots that I wrote.
Yeah, that's the only way. Actually, they're way better than us. Those bots are very good.
So Neil, did we miss anything in the NVIDIA ARM discussion? Did we fall flat?
Oh boy.
Don't say it like that.
Is that a yes? I'm scared now.
Listen, Jacob, don't kill me.
You did okay. It was very nuanced and complicated, but you did okay.
That's how we roll. Nuanced and complicated.
I just go for okay, so I feel like I nailed it then.
I would go.
I don't go for excellence. I just go for okay.
I think we
My
know.
life
Ryan,
goal.
you should reach for the stars.
We do.
Yeah.
We just make sure those stars are reachable.
The stars are just okay.
Oh.
I mean, there's only so much you can discuss in like a
It's just
Oh,
the
yeah,
stars.
quick
You know the
20-minute
stars you
period.
like glue to the ceiling? That's the stars they reach for.
The NVIDIA ARM thing is just going to. It's either going to be great or terrible or something in the middle, which is why it's like. you
That's
did
how,
okay.
yep. That's how. That's how.
pretty much
future
what we
works.
said, I think.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think we did kind of say that. I
Yeah,
think the
well-
recording has. No, it doesn't.
Get back here, Jacob. I'm trying to kill you with your back turned.
The intro music in this game is amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I like the soundtrack of the game. I like everything about
All the music in this game is amazing.
this game. It's just so good.
Red flag taken.
So now I have a question for you.
Flag taken.
I just scored because I spawned and then the flag is right next to my flag. I was like, well, that's perfect. Thank
Noah,
you.
you got
whoever
a
did
question incoming.
What's your current favorite flavor of bubbly?
1 minute remaining.
that. Anything
lime.
other than bubbly?
Lime.
Lime, yeah. I'm into lime and cherry right now.
Cherry is
Lime
very
is
good.
pretty
I'm
much
a peach
here's the
person.
thing. Here, let me tell you why the lime is better than any other flavor. You can't get that flavor of lime in anything other than the little suckers that have the little it's like the white stick that's curved around into a U, and then the two little ends are in the sucker, and then the loop is what you hold on to.
Right.
And the green ones are those are lime, but that's the only other thing that tastes like the lime bubbly. That's it. That flavor's unique.
That's true. Absolutely true.
I think the best flavor is any other drink product.
You know what, Michael? Just because you can't afford bubbly because it's the most expensive drink on the planet doesn't mean you should hate on it.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, well, that was easy.
It is. It does get expensive, Noah. But I guess Noah made a good point one time. He's like, it's not as expensive as having was it a heart attack or something like that?
Yeah, heart attack, $70,000.
Yeah. Because I was drinking so much Diet Coke before, and now I've almost completely transitioned. Every once in a while, I have a Diet Coke, but completely transitioned to bubbly, and I do feel better.
Oh yeah.
But again, you keep drinking Coke. Eventually, your legs will fall off, and your arms will fall off, and you'll be a torso sitting inside of a wheelchair.
What was amazing is the week of headaches that I had when it was about maybe a week and a half after I had quit Diet Coke, just the amount of headaches. And it just tells you how addicted you are to that crap, the caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Diet Coke specifically is a special kind of nasty.
Yeah.
As far as chemicals.
I wonder if that's why they keep trying to push the zero stuff. Is it supposed to be not as chemically
5, 4,
horrible for you?
3, 2,
Because it's like, why did they come up with Coke Zero when you
begin.
had Diet Coke?
Because New Coke.
New Coke. Remember the clear Pepsi? Yeah. Are we all? Is this everyone against each other?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
teams? I don't like this. I need teams so I can look like I know what I'm doing.
Well, because otherwise that would
Yeah. Die, Michael.
Hacker.
You'll never mess with me. Get out of here, computer kid. Hey, time out, dude. Time out. Okay, time in.
Oh, come on.
He's still doing it. Time out.
Okay, time in. Now that once I'm dead, time in.
Yeah, I timed in once you died.
I was playing Xenotic the other day, and those Michael AI bots are nasty.
Yeah,
Aren't
they are.
mean?
Yes.
I mean, that's 130 lines of code right there.
Oh wow, did they just throw you in?
Yeah, and then you just keep hitting the space bar every time you
How did that happen?
Really quit dying, Michael. Your back was turned.
No, I was shooting Jacob, and all of a sudden I'm not shooting Jacob, and I'm just staring at the floor.
Oh, that happens to me when I'm shooting at Jacob all the time. I just die.
Yeah, he just hacked me.
Would you root for BSP?
No.
Michael, you got
Sometimes it's sometimes works.
failure, so I wouldn't do that.
What did you say there about it being a failure? I didn't hear that.
A BSD is a miserable community failure, so I wouldn't do that at all.
That's
don't
very
agree with that.
tough opinion there.
I don't know if I agree with
I would probably go.
Oh, Jacob out of nowhere and just hacks me. So not cool, bro.
I would probably go to the Reactivist community because I feel like that's actually the most interesting one to go to. And like, as much as I like Linux, I actually think the Windows NT architecture is way more interesting as a platform. It's just.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just threw up in my mouth.
Windows is just super closed, and Microsoft makes stupid decisions. It turns into like an incident. But if done all over again, it could probably be a lot better. I don't. Because the Linux kernel's sole advantage is that it is GPL and essentially forces people to come together.
Thank you. I was so stuck there.
I could tell. Like, you're not even moving. Like, yep, he's stuck.
Architecturally, the Linux kernel is probably a bad design.
Okay.
It doesn't really.
Okay, that's
have
Jacob. See you, buddy.
It doesn't really have a good technical basis for being as well developed as it is. It mainly survives because there's an increasing number of people who work on it to sustain it forward. Because otherwise it would have fallen over on its own technical debt.
Wouldn't that be said with any open source project?
Triple kill.
Of course, Jacob kills me.
Not necessarily.
Every time, Jacob.
So, like the Linux
Yeah,
kernel
he comes in just after we fight.
Yep, exactly.
The Linux
Like he's just
kernel
timing it
itself
perfectly.
relies on an increasing number of people to work on an increasing number of subsystems in one project. That is, everything has to happen in the Linux kernel because there's nowhere else for it to go.
Well,
Between
that's
the
not entirely
unstable
true. So first of all, there's stuff that is passed up.
Come on, again. Stop
The
it.
only other way to do it is to have one big company manage all the things, and I think that's less scalable, isn't it?
No. So, so there's two ways it can be done. One is make one big project where everything gets dumped into and works on and grows and grows and grows, which is the Linux kernel model. The other way to do it is to make it so that the kernel project itself has an interface contract that everything can attach to, which is what the Linux kernel typically does not have. And if it has it, it will allow other projects to come around it and build and maintain stuff. And as the kernel rolled forward, it wouldn't matter. Everything would still continue to work. The Linux kernel explicitly doesn't do this because so that way people are forced into working into the main Linux kernel project, which I think is a good thing. But if it weren't for the fact that like base of people underneath it for developing and growing it, and there was a large group of people already willing to work on it, I don't think it would be successful. In fact, today, I think if the Linux kernel project were to start today, it would be an instant hit. And actually, I'm very worried about the fact that the Linux kernel project has a very old, broken, and horrible development environment, and they're resistant to changing it to accommodate the next generation of community people.
Why is all of the enterprise moving towards the direction of Linux though, instead of trying to reinvent NT?
Well, one, because Microsoft's horrible. They're actually not great at working with it. But the second thing is, because Linux is already there, the corporate world is actually a bad case to make for saying that everything is good, because they often make bad decisions on the basis of everyone else is doing it. Like the biggest, it can sometimes wind up having a good
Better run,
decision,
Jacob.
but they don't necessarily do it because it is actually good. Like, it is extremely rare for the corporate world to make a good decision because they don't work off
That did not work out.
that kind of incentive model. They work off of the incentive model of how much less work do I have to do something. And because the Linux operating system has gotten certain steam by hackers and hobbyists and communities in the 90s up into the 2000s, it now becomes easy to treat that without doing work. If the Linux kernel project and the Linux operating system project started now, it would fail.
Triple kill.
The current dynamics of the open source world basically prohibit that kind of growth and evolution of being successful.
By the way, for those who don't know, there's never been a subject Neil doesn't have an opinion on.
Yeah, don't know how you started this, but
That is very accurate.
Remember Sky OS?
Sky?
Yeah, Sky OS.
iOS.
It was Sky.
No.
Sky OS. Yeah, it was open source that tried to go commercial. When it tried to go commercial, it never got out of alpha.
Yeah. As part as alternate open platforms, like the biggest problem with BSDs is that they're just bad at community, and they actually actively encourage secret. To the degree that there is actually no way for them to be successful ever. So my heartfelt opinion is that the only reason they're alive is because there's a very tiny core of people who are passionate about BSDs that keeps everything else alive, and as those people literally die, so much.
Dang it!
I have the same worry about Linux because they're not adapting to the way that everyone else wants to work and wants to contribute. But it's going to take a lot longer for Linux to fall by the same sword. Maybe by then somebody will finally realize that's a bad idea.
No. What?
Models that don't work, like mailing lists and having to like.
No, mailing lists are the future, man.
Yeah,
Oh
right,
my
dude.
God.
Mailing lists are like the best,
Here's
especially
the-
when
I
you
don't know
have
why
like
the
a
community
special
was
template.
upset with the mailing list. I put it out there. I made some changes.
Here's the thing.
No.
Mailing lists are only about
Got
appealing to
him.
the lowest
I got
common
Jacob
denominator.
finally.
It doesn't matter how you prefer to receive communication. Everybody has needs.
Sure, but you know the problem with it is that it's actually a really bad way to do code review.
I'm sure it is, but I guess my point is that to a certain degree,
And
you're
everybody
fighting
has Git. Everybody has Git.
I know, but you're fighting network. Well, you're trying to.
I'm not. If I was fighting network effect, then I would be saying don't use GitHub.
No, what I'm telling you is, people use email because they can reach anybody else that has email. The problem with GitHub or GitLab is it presupposes that the other person also has GitHub or GitLab.
Triple kill.
No, mailing lists
defend
are around.
mailing lists.
I'm not defending mailing lists. So what I'm saying is the reason that they exist is the lowest common denominator, and the reason when people want to move off of standards, the way that you do
5
that
minutes remain.
is by making it compatible with somebody's lowest common denominator, whatever that happens to be. The reason I don't care about it, the reason I like our ticket system is because it integrates so tightly with our email system that I don't have to worry about, well, is this thing going to talk to that thing? I like when I get the guns that I can like, blow people away with one shot. Those are
Everybody's favorite.
Yeah. The Devastator.
not-
That was the best.
Is that what I have?
One
The
frag
rocket,
left.
I don't
rocket
know.
launcher. That's a devastator,
I want to hire the guy that says one frame
maybe
left
the
to
last
like do
frag.
my
There it
intros
is.
and stuff.
right?
Welcome to Ask Noah.
One frag.
Anybody
left.
notice I'm at the top? Anybody notice that?
That's how hacking works.
Bow
didn't-
to
I
the
didn't know-
king, baby.
How
You
hacking works.
have way too many frames per second. That's why your frames per second are much higher than mine.
You're probably not wrong.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
My frames per second aren't as high.
you suck less at this than the rest of us.
You're not good. You just suck less than us. I
That's
like
a
it.
very accurate
And you're not wrong.
statement. Yeah.
And you're not wrong.
My entire goal was to just get Jacob over and over. It only worked out 3 times, but whatever.
I keep looking for Ryan, but I end up I keep killing Computer Kid instead.
Oh, that's fun. Everyone should at least do that a couple times. Kill Computer Kid.
What? I thought you meant
my-
go
It's
after
not hard.
Ryan. Everybody should go after Ryan.
I thought everybody was. That's why I got 31 kills. Bring it.
Well, Michael and I would face off. He'd then all of a sudden kill me and then get shot in the back.
Yeah, exactly.
Prepare for battle.
That was one time where I saw Spazzy jump in, and I was going after Jacob, and all of a sudden I jumped down, and there's Spazzy, and I point blank kill both of us with a stupid Devastator. I was like, this is the best.
Begin.
This game is amazing.
Do you have the game muted or something? How can you talk over the game? Like,
Oh wait,
I turned on the music.
I turned on the music and the sound effects.
Yeah, I've gotten to like 50%.
so for you, it's
am I
just
blue or red? Okay, I'm red.
Oh, why?
Oh,
Dang
I
it,
don't use
sorry,
shoot on
Spazzy.
teams.
Sorry,
Dang it, I didn't know
sorry.
that. Sorry, I didn't know there were teams. I just thought I killed everyone.
I know. I was
What color am
still in
I? How do I know?
deathmatch mode.
I think I'm blue. I think you're my friend. You're not my friend. God.
Oh,
Hey, you killed my
Computer
friend.
Kid.
Now you
Hey,
have to die.
I'm your
Ah!
friend.
Hey guys, I know my color's red, but I'm really on team blue.
Oh,
shoot.
I apologize for
You're-
destroying you right
I'm
there.
really
Oh,
on
you,
your
said,
guys'
you said you were on my team. You said you were on my team. You lied to me. You're dead.
Used to double lead.
Die, Rick.
Whoops.
Guys, don't shoot. I'm on your team.
This whole genre of
By the way, who here is like Noah that's not typically a gamer but is playing Xenotic anyways?
Me.
I'm totally. I don't know what you're talking about. I play games all the time.
Who said me?
My massive friend.
Computer kid, never games.
I thought I heard someone else too.
Any other Ryan?
The other Ryan. Nice.
I don't particularly play.
Yeah, I don't play. I never play
Other
this.
Ryan, do you have a username? You're not allowed to be Other Ryan. I mean, that can be.
That
your
should
username.
be as you, other Ryan. That'd be
That's
awesome.
I should just change to other Ryan. This is the only thing I use Zoom for.
I want to be clear. You're not like less of a Ryan or anything. We just,
Oh, you're just the
our
other
Ryan is definitely the Ryan, and then you're the next Ryan.
Dagnabbit.
By the way, if you're in here, where are you?
Oh, I get it. Currently I'm catching up on...
Die.
Kill.
That was unfortunate, Ashley. Like, you just
I was gonna say, just got camped.
yeah, you just spawned right in front of the corner I turned to.
Conan just
Hey,
left
so
my
Ryan.
team to go to the other team.
Yeah,
Do you have a work desktop or a work laptop?
work laptop.
Is it in a dock?
No.
You work on your laptop all day.
I work on the laptop, but I just plug in an external monitor to it and do it that way. So it's not an official dock, but it's got. Wait. Yes. Yeah. It's just
Oh, I
not hooked
killed
up to a
myself.
dock. Because I refuse to pay for equipment for work. You know, they have to pay for it, and I've never submitted for a dock. They're like, I just don't feel like I think it would be better and cleaner, but I just don't.
Here's the way I would look at that is, or what I'm trying to do, and this is why I was asking about your work computer. Look at that. There's a separate volume slider from master. Gosh, this is great. Look at that. Music, ambient, info, items, player, pane, shots, voice, weapon. I can turn every one of those down.
I know.
Okay, so anyway, so what I was going to ask was, so I'm trying a new thing. I am trying.
Michael, please, no stuff.
I am trying to switch to Thunderbolt docks entirely. So
Nice.
I have a work laptop and then personal laptop and then some other laptops for other reasons. Anyway, so I got to a point where I was thinking to myself, I wonder if I can just live in docks.
So when you say live in docks, like you're not gonna
not
have
cool,
a desktop
man.
computer, you're just gonna have a laptop, you dock
Right
random
behind
places.
you, unfortunately.
I mean, to be fair,
Wherever
Here's
you're
what
at.
I like about that. I told Layton,
I like
I was
that,
like, hey, can you buy me a dock? And of course they're like, yeah, sure. So they buy a dock. Well, now if I'm there on the weekend and I just want to sit at my desk at Layton with our redundant gigabit internet and play games or do whatever, catch up on work, then my ultra-speed laptop will plug it into the dock. And if I want to, whatever I want to do, and then like I can use that same 4K monitor and the same monitor and the printer and all that stuff, monitor, keyboard, microphone, all that crap that's all plugged in. It just all works on whatever laptop happens to be in there. But the applications and the setup and the customizability of the computer is all centered around whatever computer.
I think that's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Here's what I run into though is like every once in a while I'll go to sit down to work and I'll be like, man, it would be nice to
Triple
have
kill.
a little bit more power, a little bit more RAM, or a little bit more whatever.
Yeah. It depends on what you're doing. Like 90% of the work I do could be done on a pretty, non-expensive laptop. But then, yeah, there's those things like if I'm editing a video or something where I'm like, God, I miss my desktop.
not cool.
Yeah, I actually was editing a video that had me thinking exactly that. I was using Caden Live, and I was doing it for the radio station. Laptop that worked that Layton gave me. And yeah, yes.
Of course, I could build you this mini ITX machine and you could just bring it along with you.
Well, so back to what you were saying about you said I refuse to pay for equipment. So here's the thing. Right now, the dock that Zoom for Destination Linux is on my work laptop. And my rationale for that was it's the one thing I'm going to 100% have access to all the time, right? 'Cause
Right.
I have a lot of laptops, but the work one is always with me. So now I can do Destination. So right now it's in my own personal dock that I paid for, but I'm but like I have a better experience
Triple
in my
kill.
house. And even if I leave late, and like I'll have to give them the laptop back. But whatever the next thing I do, I'll just put that into my work dock that I've set aside for working from home. So I look at that as like my property.
3 frags
But you
left.
should let us fund that stuff for you.
What?
Some of the equipment you need for Destination Linux.
Well, yeah, but that's.
I know you don't care, but it's, like, it's the whole reason. We should be. Just give us a list of stuff that you need. You know.
I'll tell you. Here's what I. You want to know what I need? Here's what I need. I need for you or Michael or both of you to come out here to Grand Forks and help me like put a studio together. I don't know. Like I have plenty of space. Why is it? Why can't I spawn?
I think
What's
it's
happening?
game's over,
Something-
but it froze or something. I don't know.
It's not froze. It does a pause where you can see the score for a minute.
Oh, I think I won.
Kill people.
Cool, perfect.
Sweet.
I won.
You won, Michael? Congratulations.
I think I won. I won on my team at least, so I count that.
It's not.
Spazzy,
no,
just it doesn't matter. Spazzy, like
I wanna
won
come to Grand
Gilmore,
Forks,
it's
Noah.
not- Nah.
Yeah,
And I
that's what
want to
need.
help you set up a
That's
studio.
what I need.
Take it.
That's
Yep.
what I need. Like I need somebody to sit down and be like, no, that looks good, or let's do it that way, or whatever. Because I don't have like the thing is, I can sit down by myself, but then when I get stuck or like I don't know what to do, I'm like, well, now what? I could be at work getting stuff done. And
We need a
instead I'm-
portable like suitcase that has the Destination Linux gear for you that includes a good camera, good mic.
I have that. You could.
But you don't
you're
have a
welcome
good
to tell-
camera.
Well, I have a C930. I'll happily replace it with
People just
whatever you
jump
tell
back
me.
and forth.
Replace it.
We
with.
need to get you a Sony mirrorless.
All right, give me a Sony mirrorless. I'm down.
So, Moni, I got a Sony mirrorless. They're fantastic.
Prepare for battle.
But like I said, like I can, but like the thing is, like I say, I don't
5,
like without
4,
being that guy. Like I can just order a Sony mirrorless
1,
camera. The thing is, like it doesn't do any good unless it's actually like there's proper lighting above it, proper lighting, behind.
That's true.
It will still do good without that.
It'll
do
still,
much better when you have-
it is still
I
better,
don't know.
but
Here's
Especially
the
if we're gonna start streaming in 4K and stuff, we're gonna need higher end equipment.
yeah. Well,
I wasn't planning on doing 4K.
You're gonna stream in 4K?
No.
I'm impressed.
I want to. Why not?
well,
Because I'm the one streaming?
I'll tell you what. I was gonna say I'll tell you what. Because
Platform supports that.
Nobody.
Is Michael gonna need more hard
YouTube
drives?
supports it.
Yeah, and platform isn't a problem. We can find a platform to do it, but the issue is going to be, who's going to want to pull that down?
Yeah,
How
I
many
don't.
people want to watch a talk show in 4K?
We're not going to
You
release
don't pull
it
it
as 4K
down.
anyway.
It's what's streaming. It's what's
But
streaming.
that's what I'm saying though. What I'm saying is you're on, like, think about it. I mean, I'm in so many places that the internet is like 10 megs up if that, or 10 megs down if that.
I think 4K is overkill.
Okay,
I
2K.
think the vast majority of the
I think
internet
it's
is
also
720.
Well, 1080p
Well,
is
if you're
what we're
using
going to do.
81, you'll be doing 4K in the same bitrate that you do.
I think if we could just get 1080p with really good cameras, really good lighting, I
Yeah.
would be happy. But I think we need to look at future
Okay.
too, because
Okay, all right. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we standardize 4K, but just stream 1080 for now?
yeah, exactly.
That's actually probably better because if you have 4K games 4K, it's probably
Okay, but here's this, and this is what really bothers me, and it's what to be fair, if I'm honest with you, what I've given up on trying to figure out because everybody's line is different. I have a 1080p camera, but you'll notice that the 1080p camera that I bought at Best Buy for $68 looks nothing like the 1080p camera that you bought for $500 from Sony.
Exactly.
And that's because
Yeah.
the sensor size now is
Right.
That's so.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll get you. I'll talk with Michael. We'll figure out. We'll get the funds together for that because I think that would
just tell me what
that
I
would be
should- what
amazing.
I should-
No, you're not buying it. That's what we're. That's what all of our patrons and beautiful advertisers and everybody help with. Help make sure they get the show in the best possible quality. The worst possible show in the best quality. Or no,
I don't care what Michael. I don't care what Michael says about it. You're a good guy.
yeah.
You don't care what? What?
I said I don't care what Michael says. I'm dying. Hey, you die if you go in the lava.
Remember when Noah would say that during the announcement to advertise patrons? He's like, get
Yeah.
the worst possible show for the most amount of money.
Great.
And despite that, people do it.
Yeah, I think we had an increase that month. They're like, I want the worst possible show.
Well, here's the thing. Honestly, you know what it is? It's a subtle branding thing. if you promise less, deliver more. If I promise the worst possible show, and then they go and look at it and they're like, what are you talking about? That's hilarious. Yeah, that's not even worth watching once they get done editing. I can read all the news stories, but I really want to see that's funny. If that, and which is the kind of person I am. So what you have to assume is that the audience is smarter than you. Huh?
That's basically the reason why I'm here. I don't actually particularly care for this. I think the only times I've ever watched a produced version was when I'm headset and I don't understand what the heck is
Got him.
And that's when I'm like, okay, I'll make a note to see how
Can I be super honest with you, Neil?
What?
The people who the kind of people who are the people who I know for sure are not there for the production. They're there for the community. There's nothing wrong with that. But they're like, I'm not saying you specifically, but those are the kind of people who you don't want to take their opinion on shows.
Well, I'm not
because
saying
they don't watch or listen to the show. They're there for a totally different reason, and it's a good reason, and it's a necessary reason, and it overall benefits. But like, sometimes that people will suggest something, and I'm like, do you have any idea what that would be like for somebody who is driving down the road and listening to the show right now? Like, what that's like for them? And in my head, I'm like, well, of course not. But
I mean, I've watched the produced versions long before I started doing this, so it's not like I don't know what that's like.
Right.
And
but you've upgraded from it.
I've upgraded from it, right?
Yeah.
And
you want the full experience.
Yes, exactly. But I know very well that you don't necessarily want to do the things that are best for a live stream or a produced version, because that makes no sense.
That's what some people don't understand.
Well, I used to do this sort of thing, so I understand it.
You want to say hi?
Have you guys tried Jitsi? It's an open source video thing.
You want to say hi? Say hi. Wait. Say hi.
I mean, that does happen. We get people who are suggesting things that it's like, of course we've tried stuff.
You don't think we thought of that?
Apparently, nobody thinks that you've thought of that.
Yes.
Hey, here's the mouse.
That feels like the case sometimes.
Now, your goal is to kill Michael, okay?
So you shoot
using
Michael.
teams?
Right, there's Michael.
Yeah, we're using
you shoot the mouse.
Don't shoot the mouse, but use the mouse to shoot.
We're on different teams.
Yeah,
so
you know what? That's the one thing I can't bridge. Can't find a way to bridge teams.
Better run.
Oh. Because what?
Because teams is evil.
Teams is evil, and it sucks. And I hate that I have to use it for work.
Okay, we
Who
should
are
have
you?
run.
Who has to use teams for work?
That's the other Ryan.
Oh, other Ryan. Yeah, I can't bridge it to Matrix. Leighton uses teams too. I just don't respond.
Tell Michael he's a toad.
But you can turn it off so it emails you when you can turn it off so it just emails you and you can respond to that. So if you want to do that, that's what I'm happy to do, like a 40-minute.
There's Michael. Get him. Oh, Michael, you killed a little girl. Real good job, dude.
She was going after me. She was going after me.
Real proud of yourself, man.
She's trying to kill me.
She shot
Here, you
first.
can come. Tell her she can come kill me. I'm useless. I'm defensive.
You want to go get? You want to get Michael or you want to get? Who's better on the show, Michael or no?
Who's better? Who's better?
None of them.
Oh wow! Wow!
Thanks.
Not that I don't blame her, but wow.
It's Daddy's the best, right? No.
Wow. He speaks the truth. None of them are good.
Is Ted best?
No.
Who's the best on the show? Mommy's not on the show.
That tells you everything.
Mommy keeps us quiet, so Daddy doesn't get it.
Get him. Oh, you almost got it. All right, bye. No.
Oh wow! It's 5 versus 2. What happened?
All right, guys, I gotta go. My son has a birthday party.
Oh, happy birthday, your son from
Happy birthday.
Those random people you spend the Sunday with.
Yeah, we should. I'm glad this is on the way of expansion. I like this. This is a good way.
Yeah, man. So, absolutely.
All right, guys.
See you, dude.
See ya.
Yep. Adios.
Arrivederci.
Dang, I just started this Sonic. I forgot to select to use my RX 560, so it's gonna try to use my Vega 8.
That's gonna be great.
Sounds like a terrible conundrum.
That's gonna be fun.
Vega 8 would be
Not
good.
cool.
Vega 8 run this game great.
Yeah, on this
Like
laptop,
100. I mean, I'm running on,
really bad.
on an Intel HD 620 and I'm getting 100 plus frames.
You might be missing some drivers if you're having it run. I wonder if it's just this game. And that's weird that they would run bad because Vega 8's quite powerful with GPU, integrated GPU.
Yeah, and this game is also like 10 years old, so it's not like it's really that demanding.
Yeah, it's not bad, so I don't know.
What you running?
Kid got me, yay. It definitely wasn't you.
I
Got him.
tried different things. Right now, I'm just trying to install
what distro?
Zorin OS right now.
Okay, so that's Ubuntu 18.04?
Pretty much.
That's your problem.
Yeah, that's pretty much your issue.
If you're gonna have AMD, you're not gonna be able to really run unless it's Pop OS who actually pulls down the hardware stack. You're not gonna really run AMD well on Ubuntu.
Well, you're not gonna run any graphics stack particularly well except for NVIDIA because they don't update the hardware. They don't update the kernel.
Memorize the spawn pattern.
I agree with that. You could go Pop OS though, and you would get the hardware enablement for that Vega 8. Probably pulled. I don't know about Vega 8 though, Neil. I don't know. That's Mesa purely. I know they pulled down AMD drivers, but
yeah, they don't. The problem is that because
I blew myself up a lot.
Because System 76 doesn't ship anything with AMD hardware, they don't prioritize making that actually available. So that's a little bit of a problem.
well, they do ship Ryzen desktops now.
But they don't ship any Radeon graphics with them. They ship only NVIDIA GPU. They only ship NVIDIA GPUs for all of their computers.
Yeah, that does make sense. They do this.
Yeah.
Now Fedora has a semi-rolling, so you could go there. You could go.
Yeah, they update Mesa basically. They backport and update Mesa as well as the kernel and everything else, like throughout the.
You probably have a better experience in the Vega 8 with Fedora, with Arch, anything Arch based. With.
Oh yeah, my desktop computer, which is down right now.
Prepare for battle.
Prepare for battle.
What am I on right now? I think I'm
4,
on Endeavor.
3, 2.
Oh, Endeavor, yeah. Endeavor's awesome.
Begin.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Why not
I'm
just
thinking
install
of
everything
buying
you do and upgrade
Reborn
the kernel?
OS for my next computer.
Because it's not stable.
Well,
Every time I've upgraded the kernel in Ubuntu, I've had nothing but problems.
I'm running. I have 3 different machines. 2 of them are AMD with AMD graphics, and they're all running some newer kernel, and they're all running Ubuntu.
It's my personal experience with that has not been great.
Mine either. Nothing but crashes.
Usually random corruptions and instability. So I just don't yeah, with Ubuntu basics.
Where is everybody?
Yeah, this is a big map. Apparently.
Besides, if we tell everybody to do that, they're never going to fix their problem.
So I'm running
Triple kill.
Pop OS, and this is buttery smooth.
But you're but
Do you have Butterfest? Is that why it's buttery smooth?
Maybe, perhaps.
I wasn't gonna go there, but that's fun. He probably doesn't since he's running Pop OS.
Unfortunately, he needs to fix that.
He should fix that.
Get all buttery.
That's what I'm running, is Pop OS. I like Pop OS a lot.
Yeah, this is a. I actually might.
Friendly file system?
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Someone just shot me on the teleporter.
I haven't used it for a while, but I liked it. It's where I installed the Gentoo.
Oh,
it was actually fun to.
That's dope.
Oh man, Gentoo and derivatives. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, I wrote
Man,
one
but
of
when
the
people
first
use
guides
Gentoo, they are loyal to the death with it.
Well, because you have to input it. There's a lot of upfront investment into these.
Absolutely. It's kind of like Arch in that way, right?
Right. The reason they're fanatics is because, you know, if you've gone this far,
you're committed.
You're either committed or you have Stockholm syndrome. Take your pick.
Yeah, I did use it.
Yeah. Okay. So you didn't get the.
I'm ready to go all Fedora when Fedora proves that they, for long term, can, you know, prioritize the desktop.
What do you need to prove that?
You know, not
RPM Fusion by default, maybe.
Yes, thank you. Not have to go find and hunt down settings to make my computer do basic things like play videos by default. You know. I don't want to, because you're familiar with Fedora, and people use it every day. Probably it's nothing to them to go find this package and bring it down and enable RPM fusions, and then go find this package, bring it down so you can actually play movies on it and watch standard websites in H.264 or whatever. But I don't want to have to go hunt all that crap.
That's fixed in 33. We have H.264 but we fetched and installed automatically the first time you request.
So there you go.
Yeah.
33 may be it for me, man. It may be my Fedora journey.
So AAC is already in there. H.264.
Triple kill.
I don't even know how I got up here.
But it is automatically
teleport somehow.
By default.
Yeah, apparently.
And so it'll get auto-installed.
Just did it again.
Request it. Let's see what else. FFmpeg is very nice.
Because they fixed the problem that Ubuntu has with the hardware stack, so that they also fixed the problem of not being focused on proprietary stuff, which I like. So there's a lot of wins for Fedora, reasons I should be using it, but it's got to be something I can recommend to new people, because that's who watches my channel the most. And so
sure.
Yeah.
Starting with Fedora 33, the H.264 repositories are by default. In the GNOME software application is essentially 2 clicks to turn on the NVIDIA, install and activate the NVIDIA driver, like straight up. So if you know you need it, which you will know because it'll tell you, then you can just click to activate it. There's also some work going on to refine the initial setup wizard to give things like checkbox and hardware detection stuff to offer prompts to turn on things as needed.
That's cool.
It's difficult because we're trying to do this in the GNOME project, which I still strongly agree with that particular sentiment, but whatever. I guess that's what everyone else wants to do, so that's where it's happening. But GNOME initial setup is being worked on to add the ability to, for the downstream distros, to add questions with actions to activate. And that would be something along the lines of Fedora Workstation. When you go to initial setup, it detects that, hey, you seem to have an NVIDIA card. Would you like to have the NVIDIA driver active? And then
that's such a good solution to the problem of trying to detect. No fair, Michael. My daughter came in.
Just raged you, whatever that means.
Not because I know Fedora is big on sticking to the open source piece.
Right.
And some of the stuff I'm saying that I want to add in to make it easier for new users is, in fact, proprietary crap. So it's kind of a weird bag. But if it would prompt them while they're trying to play a video and say, hey, if you want, you can enable this, and it would be good. That's good enough. That's a great middle ground, right?
That's pretty much where we're moving towards. The only other issue right now is that since Socket uses FFmpeg instead of GStreamer, we can't ship FFmpeg in Fedora literally at all. What? We actually just can't, because FFmpeg is not architected in such a way where it's easy to say, well, we need the basic framework libraries in there, and then the extra bits that are patent encumbered, somebody else can ship it for us. No, you have to ship the whole thing together, and the upstream developers we've reached out to before, and they don't actually give a flying... They don't care. at all.
Oh.
They just really don't care about the fact that people cannot ship the library. They basically say, well, it's your problem, and you go figure it out. You do it. And so
FFmpeg's so insanely important, man.
it is important, and that's why but there's not a lot anyone can do about it because of the way that it's made. It puts Fedora and OpenSUSE to a lesser extent, because OpenSUSE ships a crippled FFmpeg into a really weird position because there's this problem of like, well, if we ship the FFmpeg software without crippling it first,
somebody exploded in the
it's not. We can't. Then the software doesn't work. But if it's crippled to the point where it doesn't even have things that people actually need or expect FFmpeg to offer, then what good is it? So we just.
How does Canonical get around it?
Oh, they ignore it. They ignore the whole problem. They just pretend it doesn't exist, and since it's in the universe, if you have it on your computer and someone sues you, you're well. Oh well. Canonical only offers a guarantee on software that's in the main refill. Everything that's in the universe.
Get wrecked, Ryan. Get wrecked.
And the last I checked, FFmpeg is in fact still not in main. Basically, the only reason it's in Ubuntu is because Debian ships it, and nobody's going to sue Debian because Debian has no money.
That's not true. They have $500,000.
See, nobody has told the world that Debian has money.
Yeah. I was surprised it was so low. They were announcing it. Like, I mean, it's not a bad amount of money for a personal person. The company's been around so long.
Well, actually, it's really bad for Debian to have that much money. They could get in trouble with the IRS for that. Like having you're not supposed to have a surplus like that as a non-profit.
500K? I don't know if 500K would count as that, would it?
I mean, I've heard of organizations being in trouble for less. So, like,
I mean, you can't tell me like that. You know,
they don't employ it. They don't have any. They have to justify every year that they carry a profit. And if the IRS doesn't like their justification, then they risk getting audited and potentially being dissolved. That's one of the downsides of being a not-for-profit. You can't hold a profit. Yeah, FFmpeg in Ubuntu is in universe, so it Canonical does not provide any guarantees for any software.
So what would you guys do? Put it in Fusion or something?
Yeah, so it's in RPM Fusion. It's maintained by Fedorans that work in that project, and it's not crippled in RPM Fusion. It's the full FFmpeg library. OBS Studio is there, as well as everything else that needs it. OpenSUSE goes for a different solution. They actually do the Pac-Man repo, which is their equivalent to RPM Fusion. That one actually carries the full build of FFmpeg, and the one that SUSE ships in OpenSUSE is a crippled build that does significantly less. But it means that most applications can actually be shipped as part of OpenSUSE, and if they were coded properly, then swapping the FFmpeg implementations will still work properly.
Oh, I've been wanting to ask, why does Fedora, because it's the only distro I know that does it, force the reboot, or do its updates in a reboot splash screen like Windows?
So, a couple of reasons for it. The first was, people think that you could keep doing your work while updates happen, and the answer is you kind of can, but it usually breaks down when you do that. And the second thing is it makes sure that you have a consistent state going back and forth from one version of the operating system to another. In fact, fun fact for people who don't know this, Windows actually supports rebootless updates. Microsoft deliberately does not offer this capability to most people because rebootless updates add a whole new dimension of variables to how code change can happen safely. For Fedora Workstation, where GNOME software will force reboots for operating system software updates. The idea here is that you can take a consistent snapshot, you have consistent state mechanisms. It's much more reliable because you have a lot less code running in the runtime environment.
Is it basically putting itself in like a safe mode?
Yeah, basically. It's a safe mode kind of target, custom safe mode target, where it can just do the updates and then just transition out of it afterwards. And I think this is actually part of the reason why people think Fedora's updates are a lot smoother and a lot more reliable, is because the default graphical workflow does not encourage more updates.
I was gonna kind of call like nonsense on your thing about not being as stable, but then I started thinking back because I always update my systems and then don't reboot them, and there are many times that certain stuff will stop working. I'm like, oh yeah, it updated. A lot of it works. So a lot of times I can get away with it for hours, but there will eventually be something that, oh yeah, I updated, I need to reboot.
And the reason why Microsoft decided, even though that they put all this effort into making Windows support updates like 15 years ago, the reason they decided not to do it was because of this problem. And it would add an unbearable amount of problems to Windows' reliability, even more so than it already has. And so they just decided never to use it except for very limited cases.
I think with your ButterFS move, it makes a lot of sense with the snapshotting too, heavily. Yeah.
Yeah, so like one of the things I hope to move towards is making it in a future release, like either 34 or 5, provide like a simple graphical tool that you can click a checkbox or open it up and it'll just do in the background the correct setup to make it so that it keeps snapshots automatically when it updates and stuff, and set up a policy that it records snapshots aggressively. Because the problem with snapshots is that if you just keep them all, you'll just run out of space because you can't free up any. So that's the problem OpenSUSE had for a long time, was that when you eventually snapshot your system out of space. And so that leads to a bad and unexpected user experience because the tools are being lied to by the file system, because of course they are. And they all say, hey, you have space. But it turns out you don't, because all of your space is tied up in old system snapshots. So that's the reason I didn't roll out full system snapshots by default with Fedora 33, because I don't have a good but of course, if you want to have system snapshots, it's like 2 commands to turn it on and do it. But it's not something I'm willing to recommend to people who don't know how to deal with that problem.
Interesting.
And it's actually one of the things where I'm kind of frustrated about OpenSUSE, because they did like almost all of the fundamental work to make this a good experience, and then they didn't do the user experience part to make it a good experience. And so they didn't take care of the user side graphical environment problems. They didn't take care of making sure that, you know, people can be successful in recovering from, you know, obvious errors and things like that. And so it's just a situation of like, even though SUSE has all these good tools for doing all these things, they didn't do enough work to make people successful in using them properly.
Yeah, SUSE is one of those mysteries to me of why is it not, it's really not a mystery, why is it not as popular as it should be? Because
they're bad at marketing.
The mystery is why are they not so popular but still make 3 times as much as Ubuntu?
Yeah.
So SUSE does the last time I looked, the SUSE Linux distribution is most commonly used to build appliances and platforms. Those are things that are not highlight topics. People don't shout in the roof, hey,
my Whirlpool.
Yeah, my Whirlpool or my phone system runs off of SUSE Linux, or my VMware vCenter appliance that like gives me my front end runs on SUSE Linux. That's actually a thing. Like this is where SUSE tends to be very successful. And this makes them a lot of money. This makes them very profitable. This makes them very successful. Because that is literally their biggest differentiator business, is that they help you make custom Linux solutions for your needs. They actually have a whole subset of products for doing that. And they're introducing a new one to bring standardized automotive Linux, like something that is standard, well understood, and actually can be reasonably certified in such a way that, you know, you can now build it into an automotive platform without having to go through, you know, all kinds of, you know, crappy, you know, things to figure out how to make something that, you know, the government will be like, yeah, this is safe for cars. So SUSE does all this sort of stuff, which makes them very successful in a way that nobody notices. And so they make so much money doing this. They're very good at it, but they don't talk about it because there's nothing to talk about.
Not with that attitude.
Well, or SUSE. SUSE's like, will someone pay attention to us,
Shut
please?
up, SUSE.
Shut up, SUSE. Nobody's talking to you, SUSE.
Yeah, I mean, well, the most recent thing is that they're partnering with the German car maker on EVs, and they're building the platform for them. Like, they're building the automotive Linux platform for it. They're doing the certifications. They're actually adding SE Linux to SUSE Linux to support robust security requirements and all sorts of things like that. And those are the things that they're doing. And they did make press releases, and people are talking about it in certain sectors, but it's not something that, say, Destination Linux is going to look at and say, this is actually cool and we want to talk about this, because what would you talk about?
It could be doing like electric vehicles is a really cool topic. We could talk about that if we knew about it.
We have some stuff planned for DL. It's gonna blow your minds.
That's right. We're gonna make an electric vehicle Destination Linux.
Tesla. Yep. Eat your heart out.
They will.
We're going to drive our Destination Linux vehicles to the Destination Linux Stadium every week.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So, like, this is, you know, kind of so AutoZone uses SUSE is actually the #1 Linux platform used on point of sale systems. Oh. Walmart uses it. AutoZone uses it.
Really? Walmart?
Yes.
No kidding.
Yes. Walmart is SUSE's biggest customer by a fair margin. All their data centers across the world are 85% SUSE servers.
I had no idea. That's fascinating.
I think they did a talk at Red Hat Summit, which is how I found out about this, where they said that they had like 20,000 RHEL servers and like 90,000 SUSE servers. And I found that out at a Red Hat Summit, not SUSECon, Red Hat Summit.
Apparently, they were Nick says that Papa John's also uses SUSE. Wow.
Yeah,
SUSE is only in the enterprise, is what I'm looking at. Like, SUSE has. I mean, I also agree that SUSE has like an infrastructure of like such a amazing technology that they just fumble in the desktop world.
SUSE is almost, I think the last time I looked, is like 85% of the retail market. Like they've locked up almost the entire retail market in terms of point of sale systems, back office systems, business intelligence systems, platforms, stuff like that. That's all SUSE.
It's really cool.
When's Fedora 33 going to be ready new?
The Fedora 33 beta is expected to come out either this next week or the week after, but I've been running Fedora 33 beta, the Fedora 33 nightlies on my machines just fine, and it's not different from 32.
I'm not. When is the official release? Do you know?
Oh, the official release is, I believe the plan is the 3rd week of October.
October, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So.
All right, guys, I got to run. I'm looking forward to that, Neil. Though I'm gonna be doing a lot of Fedora. I hear there's a rumor Michael's playing with Fedora lately, but
I have been somewhat looking at it a little bit. Mm-hmm.
One day, Michael will switch over his production system to Fedora.
To GNOME Fedora.
Not GNOME.
No, I'm not even gonna. I'm not. No.
Oh God! No. I just got away from GNOME. I can't get far enough.
Yeah.
No, I think he is actually gonna switch it over to Gobo Linux.
No.
Oh, really?
No.
Interesting, Michael. Tell us about that.
I would never use that.
That's what Ted uses. All right, I gotta go.
Gobo confuses me so much.
Yeah.
Gobo is the people who like. Is that Gobo or Robo? One of those Linux like random things that has that kind of like sound claims to be better than.
Gobo Linux is the one with the custom file system hierarchy and the lack of package manager.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I haven't tried it for years.
Yeah,
it's as messed up as it was 10 years ago.
Okay, that means that Robo Linux is the one that thinks that they're better than Windows and support everything that Windows has.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, sure.
Still bad, still useless.
Yeah. But this is just the fact that they would have that audacity to make that claim. It's like, okay, sure, bud.
Yeah, the distro that I used to like, I don't think is developed anymore, was Frugalware. It was kind of
I
a
know the
combination.
Frugalware. I know some of the Frugalware developers.
I
They
think
work
they
on
did
Open
good.
Mandriva now.
Kind of a combination between Arc and Slackware almost.
Yeah, sorta. Yeah. More like I think they're more along the lines of Mandrake. Switch.
Mandrake was my first Linux distro.
Nice.
Yeah. It's like, was that like 97, 98?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, Mandrake was probably the first Linux distro that I used on actual hardware. My first Linux distro was probably probably Peanut Linux in a VM.
Interesting.
VMs weren't a thing when I first started using Linux. They were brand new, and VMware was being celebrated as the company that made virtual machines.
Well, mine was actually in a Connectic's Virtual PC 5. I was using a Mac at the time.
Ah.
Before Microsoft bought it.
That reminds me, there was actually one other thing that one other thing that SUSE does that nobody knows about is that they're the only quote unquote enterprise Linux that supports the Raspberry Pi. They actually offer SUSE Linux Enterprise for Raspberry Pi.
I mean, Ubuntu has an ARM Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, but they don't officially support it in the sense that, you could pay them and they will go fix bugs for you and stuff.
Oh, that's true.
That's a thing that SUSE is, as far as I'm aware, the only one who does that. And I've bitched at Red Hat about it before too. I've said like, dude, why aren't you doing this?
Oh, that's super interesting. I always wondered why SUSE was a thing because I used the desktop and I'm like, meh. But now it totally makes sense why they're like a big company.
They're super successful in everything that Red Hat and Canonical just don't pay attention to. And that is actually, I think, one of the reasons why SUSE has had a hard time expanding out of it, because they get really comfortable where they are. They
were innovative one time and then stopped innovating.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that's pretty, like, putting it a lot less charitably, yes, that is basically it.
Yeah. Well, not a lot less charitably. That's just what it is. They just stopped bothering after they got. That's why when I say that they're 3 times more than Canonical, they are, but they've also been in that phase for like 10 years. They've been in the exact same profitability for like 3 years or 10 years.
The main problem with SUSE for the longest time was that their owners, before they became independent, quote unquote, have
Novell's
basically
terrible.
stemming. Yeah, Novell really screwed the pooch there. They made SUSE not able to grow past where they were. They're just now starting to recover from that and actually growing into new market segments for the first time in 10 years, 15 years. Like it's ridiculous how bad Novell screwed up SUSE. So like SUSE's doing pretty well in those segments. They own all the SAP market. Like there is, I think like 10% of it is RHEL and the rest of it is SUSE. That's it. SAP, the company, like they will say, we want you to run SAP on SUSE. You can run it on RHEL, but we would really rather you run it on SUSE Linux. And that has a big factor. SUSE was also the one that invented live kernel patching. So, like, they've done a lot. because the live kernel patching, they actually invented it because you can't take down SAP systems and you can't take down retail management systems, because if you do, then people literally lose money like every second it's down. So yeah, it's SUSE is actually really good at what they do, but that's only when they actually do something with it.
Yeah,
and of course,
pretty much.
And that's the problem with them. They don't do anything.
They have like the most potential, pretty much, period, and they don't do it.
Yeah, like I know you say a lot how you're frustrated about Red Hat not doing anything on the desktop. I am more frustrated at SUSE. SUSE by far does the least in terms of like stuff on the desktop today, and it frustrates me because their whole thing, the whole reason most people are fans of SUSE is because of all the stuff they did for desktop Linux.
Well, the reason I'm frustrated with Red Hat is because they have billions and billions of dollars,
well,
and
yes,
they've done
I know, but
billions and billions of nothing. Got him.
Yeah, well,
Michael, did you stop the recording?
Did I?
I
don't know. I might have.
Like
I don't
still
think.
going.
Somebody's still recording.
There's a Zoom recording, and separate from the
it is,
OBS
okay.
recording. So
Okay.
I might have left that going. I don't remember if I did the other one or not.
Don't run out of space, Michael.
I won't ever run out of space again. After the 3 times that I did.
Out of space next week.
Yeah. Actually, every time in the morning on Sundays, I was like, all right, check space. Okay, cool.
Hey boys, I also tried my best not to swear my head off while playing first-person shooter.
That is impressive. That was fun. Very difficult to do. I applaud you.
Yeah.